What did you get your kid for Christmas?
A bike.
What did he get you for Christmas?
A big hug.
What was more important to you, the gift that he didn't even get you or the hug that he gave you?
Even just watching him receive the gift was a gift to me.
Watching him enjoy it. What if that's how God thinks when he looks at creation and he's like, I don't care about any of this. I'd like to watch my kids enjoy what I made for them. If I'm a worship leader, the feeling is everybody's there to critique, because if you don't have the song, oh, that guy, he's not in the spirit. That's obviously because he doesn't pray enough, and that's obviously because he's in sin. I was more of a Christian when I was less of a Christian. When I didn't know that this side of the Christian world, I felt like more of a Christian when I was folding clothes at Express. So it's gonna be like, oh, we're doing it for the kingdom. We're doing it blah, blah, blah. But behind closed doors, it's like, we're doing it for revenue. And then I look at myself, I'm like, James, in 20 years, do you want to be that guy? It's an easy answer. No. So I'm out. Bye.
The gift that God has given you, what would you have done differently? All right, ladies and gentlemen, welcome to another episode of Love and Cashflow. Today we are joined with a very special guest, someone that I hold really dear to my heart. Haven't talked to him in a really long time, as a matter of fact. You can call him a singer, songwriter, freaking celebrity of sorts. I'm just kidding, but I'm not. If you see him, you'll probably recognize him on the streets, especially if you're from Central America, right? Or
South America, maybe.
Yeah. So I'm here, super proud and happy to have my brother James Orjuela with us. Welcome, my brother.
Hey, man. Nice
Welcome,
to be
man.
here, bro.
Good to see you. Just got here. Literally flew in a couple minutes ago or an hour ago.
Taking the crust off for the side of my mouth from sleeping on a plane, but we're good.
There you go. You were able to actually get some shut-eye in the
like 15 minutes, and then that was it. Yeah. And then they woke me up for snacks. So.
You can't pass on snacks.
No, bro, I was dehydrated.
Did you get the pretzels or the cookie?
Bro, they wanted to shortchange me, man, and only give me the pretzels. But I was like, where the cookies at? Where's the biscuit? And then,
Yeah.
But like with attitude, she gave it to me, but I got it.
Dude, they be stingy sometimes.
Heck yeah.
No, but dude, I'm so happy to see you, man. Number one, see you, talk to you. Actually, in this format, we were talking about it right before we started rolling, is that we haven't really had a conversation where it's like heart to heart, just sitting down, two boys, catching up, right?
Yeah.
And that's what I love about the fact that we're able to do a podcast now. It's a really good excuse to be able to rekindle relationships and talk with people that you haven't talked to in a long time. That's actually how I'm selfishly using podcasting. Not only to meet new cool people that are doing great things in many different areas, but also being able to rekindle relationships like people with you and even friends that I've had that we've never really like chopped it up in like in a real, just genuine sense, right?
Yeah.
Now, when it comes to this podcast, of course, our theme is love and cash flow. Yeah. Right. So something that I like to do and I'm implementing, we're pretty much wrapping up season 1 of Love and Cashflow, even though we haven't launched. By the time people actually see this episode, you've had multiple episodes to watch, but you made it to season 1. Number one,
okay,
thank you
that's
for
awesome.
Yeah,
thank you again. Yeah, I wanted to say it before we started getting into really other things that we were already talking about, but thank you so much for having me, man.
Oh no, it's my pleasure, man. But the theme is Love and Cashflow, and do you remember playing Truth or Dare back when you were younger?
Yes, of course.
Yeah, so instead of Truth or Dare, I'm going to ask you love or cash flow. Which one do you want to start with today? We're going to touch both, but which one do you want to start with?
Okay, let's start with love.
Love? Awesome, dude. You know what's crazy? Most guys end up picking love. I don't know if it's from a point of like, let's just get it out the way and talk about love or what it is, but it doesn't even matter. There's only been one guy that says cash flow, and that was like a couple episodes ago. But anyways, awesome. I'm glad that you picked love because it's my favorite.
Yeah.
My favorite topic.
Well, I mean, I heard somebody in another podcast talking about how guys are and men, they're actually usually the ones who are the lovers, right? Obviously women love romance and stuff like that, but it's the guy, like it's
the pursuer.
Yeah, it's the guy that has to pursue it, and it's the girl who obviously desires to be pursued, but it's the guy who has to do it. So even when it comes to, I mean, we could talk about it because we were talking about why a little bit, why we do things. The whole idea about cash flow or building businesses, Dave Chappelle says it, right? He's like, if a guy could live in a box and, walk and drive around in a scooter, he would, but he doesn't because he wants the girl, and the girl wants to live in a nice house, and the girl wants to have all, be provided for. So a guy as a provider, I'll get anything that you want as long as I have you. That's the whole, the whys are a little bit different there.
Yeah, no, 100%. So, that's really good.
Guys are more romantic than you think.
Yeah, that's true. Do you think that chivalry is dead?
Another quote from Dave Chappelle. I think yes, and women killed it.
Dave Chappelle's a legend,
bro. He's a legend. No, I think I think for a lot of people, it doesn't feel like it's as valuable anymore. You know what I mean? But for people who love traditional values, and I think that the pendulum is starting to swing back towards, from all this feminist and independent kind of view. So like, okay, no, like we're seeing that we tried it all and realized that it's not it's not what we wanted, right? So kind of we're kind of going back to that. And I hope to see, and I'm praying and hoping for that to those kind of family values, and also respect and love actually starts to come back into our culture.
Sure. No, and I think that also, like, playing devil's advocate here, the fact is that also women had to kind of step up in many ways because there was feminized men, so they needed to kind of like step up to the plate.
Yes.
As even though they're feminine women, their breed, this generation, this culture is generating women that need to kind of step up and be more masculine and all these different things.
Oh yeah.
So I completely agree. Would you consider yourself like the romantic type, or what would you consider yourself?
Yeah, I am a hopeful romantic.
Hopeful.
Yeah,
Not
because
hopeless.
if I was a hopeless romantic, it would be not fun. But I'd like to say I'm a hopeful romantic, believing that all that stuff is in my future, not somewhere in my past.
Right. That's awesome. That's
a
good
missed opportunity, or in the one that got away.
No.
I mean, it's fun to talk about and read about and watch movies about, but it's not fun to live.
It's not, imagine having to live the fact that you're hopeless.
Yeah,
in romance.
No.
No, I've never actually heard it from that point of view, but it makes total sense.
Yeah.
So what would you say, I guess, now would be your driving force, right? Because as men, well, as human beings in general, we are usually driven by love. That could be love for, or passion for, a goal, a certain destination, purpose, right? God, an individual, right? In certain seasons too, is like, man, I want to, for instance, for me, there was a season in my life after I got married that my goal was to retire my wife, right? Like that was my goal. And I was driven by my love for my wife, right?
Yeah.
So what would you say right now, current state in James' life, is your driving force, your passion, your love?
Okay, that's a great question, and I think I've been really trying to distill it down into like one word, right? Because I've seen in my past how the ideas of purpose, the ideas of calling, the idea of like, this is, and then since I'm a kid, I've been in church my whole life. Since I'm 5 years old, they tell me, we see you have a ministerial calling. You're called to be a pastor, and I'm like, I'm 5. I have no idea, yeah,
right.
And I'm like, and then I've seen and had different experiences in different churches where it's left a bad taste in my mouth, and I'm sure a lot of people have felt the same way. You know what I mean? So I'm like, okay, two things could be true at the same time, but which one, or which one is true, which one is false? So saying all that stuff, and then we'll get into it. But I think the thing that drives me the most, understanding that my purpose and my calling is to know the Lord, right? So people who are watching me that maybe don't know who I am, my name is James.
I'm so sorry. Yes, you should have introduced you a little better.
My name is James. I do a lot of things, but most people will know me for music and for what I used to do in a church band, right? And to go back to answering your question, I think that what drives me the most is that if God called us to, He did everything, right? My favorite verse is John 17:3. He's done everything for us to know Him, right? Like we all know John 3:16 that says, "For God so loved the world that He gave His only Son," right? So the whole story of the Bible is like the synopsis is in that one verse,
right?
But then it says so that we would have eternal life, and then what is eternal life? Well, eternal life is to know Him, and I'm like, okay. So then if my calling is to know Him, then what's my purpose in life? Like, what am I actually? I can know Him there. Why do I have to stay here?
Right.
I actually asked Him that one time. Every prophet has gone through suicidal thoughts.
That's what I was going to ask you. Like, wait, did you just skim through this?
Well, I'm going to be open about it.
Yeah, no, I love it.
There's moments where you go low. Jeremiah, he talked about how he wishes he could have been. That his mom's womb would have been his graveyard, right? Or his sepulcher. That's the word that he used. Elijah wanted to die, and all he needed was a nap and a snack, right?
Yeah.
But God knows that we go through these moments of low. And I asked God one day, I'm like, okay, well, before all this happened, what was it? What was your original intention? And what was it was supposed to look like? Because this is not what it is. It's not what it is. It's not what His original intent was. This is what happened after we messed it up.
Right.
And then He always reminds me, well, he planted a garden. That's what He did.
And then we just
and then from there we messed it up, right?
Yeah.
Yeah, that's that. What's the original sin? The original sin isn't an apple. So what was the original intention of God? And what I've been able to distill into one word, saying everything just to say this, enjoy.
Enjoy.
That's the driving factor. Like, if I want to have a family because I want to enjoy. I want to have a relationship with God, not because I want to, because that's what people tell me. And then so then what do? I boast in how much I know the Lord. So, and then that's what gives me comfort. It's like
Right.
it's like using God
Right,
in that way. Like, look how much I love God.
Mm-hmm.
Which I really don't like songs that talk like that. You know, when I sing songs that talk about how much I love God, I feel like a liar. You know, when I talk about how much sing songs where I say how much God loves me, I feel like a child.
Right.
You know what I mean?
Right.
And so God made this whole garden, and he told us to tend to it, but not really. He just told us to be there with him.
Right.
Okay. So then what is that in one word? I think it's just enjoy. And even now, enjoying the fact that we're getting to have this relationship, have this talk,
Yeah.
Seeing where it's going to go from there. I was thinking about the other day, and today I was flying here too, and I'm like, dude, this could be, we don't know yet, a moment that bears so much fruit that we're never gonna see. Just like another moment where maybe at that time I definitely wasn't thinking about it, but I was there when you got baptized, bro.
Yeah, that's true.
And I had no idea. I was crying like if I knew you from forever and all that stuff, and I'm like, man, that one day that. I forgot about that changed everything. You remember, right?
Yeah, now I do.
Yeah, right.
I totally forgot about this.
We were like in a retreat or something,
yeah,
right?
we were in
like
the retreat.
Vero
we were in
Beach.
the retreat. Yeah.
And I don't think I wasn't able to baptize you. I was outside of the pool because you were too tall for me to dip you, right? And I don't think I brought a change of clothes, but I was there. So to see that and to see all the fruit that has come from that one moment, I've been able to be there. You know what I mean?
That's wild.
I think I try to think about how any moment can be a moment that
is pivotal.
Yeah. So then what's my job? I need to be in the moment and then to enjoy it, and isn't that great that God thinks like that too? Like he wants us to enjoy it,
And you know what's crazy? That I wonder where your mind was at. Number one, when you said, where your mind was at when you felt that you had to ask God, like, is this it? Where you had those thoughts that were dark thoughts, but also that now make you want to focus on just simply enjoying, right? Because for many people, what drives them is, I want to make $1 million. I want to, have a family of 7. You know what I'm saying? But you have gone through some process, I'm sure, which we were going to get into here, that all you really want is to enjoy.
Yeah.
Number one, I guess it's a 2-part question, I guess. Where were you, like, in your life, mentally, spiritually, and all of that, when you, number one, asked God that, question of like, is this all, is this it type of thing? Like, I want to be where you are.
Okay, I think that's a great question. I'm gonna keep on saying that, so I'm gonna try not to. But it is a good question. And trying to remember where I was in that time. I was in a place where I had what anybody would call, from the outside perspective, success in ministry. Okay. The influence and the affluence that someone would desire, right?
Yeah.
I've been in church my whole life, but in that moment, I, writing songs, hanging out with really great people, traveling the world. Like, I come from a place where my uncle, my aunt, they were pastors. Every pastor that I've actually had a lot of people that I had in my life that were deeply involved in ministry, but they were always kind of like pursuing something, and in that pursuit of what most people would call success, right, in ministry, having a church that just keeps on getting bigger and bigger and having influence, stuff like that,
and all that.
Exactly. Their family life is like on the floor, or they have this mindset where you have to sacrifice something to get that,
right?
And I was in that moment where I guess where my perspective. Maybe I'm wrong. Maybe I'm doing the main character vibes where it's all about me. But that's the way I was feeling. I'm like, okay, so I feel like I've been able to attain, or I've been graced or blessed to be able to do and have certain things that they would desire. Why is it that it's not? First of all, one, why is it that they don't have it and they wanted it, and I have it, I didn't even want it, and number two, why do I still feel empty? Yeah.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? And then I hear all these other testimonies of other people, not even in my same realm, right? The same game that I play.
Right.
Game of life.
Right.
I'm not saying that relationship with God is a game.
Right.
But I'm saying, in the same realm that I'm in, or in a different realm, and they all say the same thing. It's like this feeling of more and more and never being satisfied. And the Bible talks about it,
Right.
like the eyes of men are never satisfied. It's not just lust. It's everything that you try to fill your life with that isn't God.
Right.
And if for guys, for men, it's even worse because the culture of this world tells you, oh, well, you have to do this and you have to be better. And you have to,
Right.
always this idea of like more and more and more. And I actually want to ask you that question because this has been the thing I've been like playing I have like a mental Rubik's Cube. And I play with it until I figure out a side and another side. But trying to figure out the idea of self-actualization, meaning whatever it is that you paint in your head that you want to become and then going after it.
Yeah.
It's not like it's whether that's a good or bad thing. And then balancing that with the Bible, like when we have hustle culture and stuff like that in this
ambition
day and age,
and
ambition and stuff like that. Balancing that with what the Bible teaches, which is self-denial. It's kind of the opposite.
Right.
You know what I mean? Like it's the idea of like, okay, well, if you really want it all, you have to give it all away.
Right.
You know what I mean? And so I've been trying to figure out how to balance that in my life.
Yeah.
So that in wanting to become whatever it is that I dreamt up for myself, I don't lose the main idea. So what do you think about that? And then I'll tell you what I think about it.
I mean, I for sure can't sit here and say that I've figured it out. However, I would say here and say like I'm pretty fulfilled in majority of the aspects of life as far as like family, my relationship with God is stronger than ever, my business wise and all of that. I've just been, I've fallen flat on my face. And one of my biggest models that I post about all the time and I'm always talking about is that I'd rather live with a failure than a regret. But I also am a big believer in that, God gives us the desires of our heart so long as we keep him in the center, right? When you talking about your favorite Bible verse, my favorite Bible verse is,
if you've been wanting to start an Airbnb business but don't know how or where to start, I've made a brand new mini course condensing our most recent 6-hour-long workshop into a jam-packed starter course. In this 7-day starter course, you'll learn the problems and mistakes I see rookies make when starting their Airbnb business, my 3 pillars of success, namely how to scout and pitch landlords to let you rent their properties to then list them on Airbnb instead of having to spend thousands of dollars on getting started by buying a property. My Airbnb price strategy overview, which like me can help you make over $1 million on Airbnb alone. My automation process, which will give you the time freedom and allow you to work on your business instead of in your business. I'll guide you step by step through setting up your very own Airbnb account and mock listing to have ready for your first property. And lastly, I'll show you how to add the same guest message templates I've refined over the years for both quick replies and scheduled messages to effectively communicate with guests. And on top of all of the jam-packed education, I'm also throwing in my Pro Host Profit Calculator, access to Airbnb's earnings potential tool, my house rules templates, my Amazon shopping list, my Pro Host budgeting tool, and more. This education derives from 3 years of running a profitable Airbnb business, automating it to where it runs itself. If applied, these can help you instantly get partnerships with landlords and turn a passion for real estate investing into an extra income or even a full-time business. Students who have taken this starter course have claimed that they've learned more in these 3 hours of content than they did scavenging for answers in the internet. But no, we're not going to charge you thousands of dollars like others would. You can join today for just $27. So click the link below to sign up and get instant access to everything, apply what you learned, and get immediate step-by-step guidance and your mock listing set up or your money back. I'll see you there.
Matthew 6:33. Seek ye first the kingdom of God and his righteousness, and everything else shall be added unto him. Yeah. That's something that I grasp from my beginning walks with as a Christian man. Is like, dude, is it as simple as me just seeking him first for real, and then everything else is going to come along? Let's test it out, right? So when I first got saved, when I got baptized in that retreat, I was on fire for God. I was single, right? Like I didn't have any real goals. I'm like, dude, I've lived this life in Miami, going clubbing, partying, enjoying the fruits of the world, right? And that didn't really fulfill me. I always felt like the outcast. I was the good kid in my group of friends in that I always had the fear of God, right? And then I also had a freaking prayer warrior in my mom, which is the reason why. Yeah, thank God for mom's prayers. But you know, all of those things let me realize, like, okay, if I go after God first, everything else shall be added. All right, let's test this thing out, right? And I was focused on God. I wasn't seeking relationship or anything like that. Boom, I met my wife, right? We got married. Okay, now I'm still focusing on God, building this relationship with my wife. Boom, finally a breakthrough in my business. And I'm like, okay, I'm still, you know, obviously ups and downs with my relationship with God. I'm not going to sit here and say like, dude, you were super committed, all these things. But I kind of was at the same time. Like I was serving at church, doing the best that I could. But I also was never, thank God, you know, kind of like super indoctrinated, for lack of better words, into thinking that, you know, my efforts and my performance at church was the end all be all. Like I always had I always had my own opinion of what God was to me. And I was always able to say, no, this doesn't feel right. Like, you know, and I'm just going to continue to pursue what I want in life and be able to provide for my future family and all those different things.
Absolutely.
So, you know, the fact that I've landed where I'm at here today as a successful man, which I feel is crazy to me. I almost get like imposter syndrome because I know really successful men. Like I know really successful people. But, you know, from the average person, I guess, or whatever, like I am deemed successful, but that's just been by the grace of God. Like, again, it's something that I've just yielded to what he's wanted for my life. And I've been able to let go of things and fail at things that, you know, you go to swing 100 times, you might hit one, right?
Yeah.
You know, so that's where I'm at in that sense, but I would love to hear your perspective on it.
No, well, I think that Bible verse really taps into a really good principle, you know, not just for your spiritual life, but, you know, for your whole life. I really don't know how to compartmentalize my relationship with God anymore. There was one time when, coming from that same moment that you were telling me about, where I had that conversation with God, I got into that low place, and I'm like, you know, God, you know, tell me why I'm here.
Right.
Tell me why we church. Tell me everything. I need to know, because I need to know.
Yeah.
Right. And because I don't know why anymore. I lost completely my why.
And this is at the height of your, I guess, let's call it career, at the height of your, like, from the outside looking in, perspective-wise, you're singing in stadiums, right?
Yeah.
You're producing music that millions of people are listening to. You are in a world-renowned, I guess, you know, church ministry that people know across the world. Yeah.
So you want to talk about imposter syndrome? Yeah. So all that stuff is happening, and then everything internally is you know, I had a moment like that, which ended up being maybe my most important moment that I've ever had with God. Like I think that moment established
that low
who
moment.
I was. Yeah, that same low moment. And I mean, you could always look at your history like that. You know.
Yeah.
Almost every bad moment that you've ever had, it, you know, in the moment is terrible.
Right.
But when you look back, you're like, oh yeah, because that's exactly the moment where you realize that, okay, God was there.
Right.
When you didn't notice at the time, but he held your back. It's the reason why you are able to look back at it, and that wasn't your end, even though it felt like everything was ending.
Yeah.
So God is good, man.
Yeah, for sure, for sure. But again, going back to like your perspective on the
self-actualization versus self-denial. Okay, so the way that I've been able to kind of figure it out the best, and what you were talking about, is a principle of priorities, prioritizing God, and making sure that God is not only the way that He told me. He was like, because I remember every day I would, or every other day, whenever, when I felt really low, I'd be like, from what I learned, I'm like, just, you know, okay, now I'm going to spend an hour with God. And then, like, that hour is going to turn into an hour and a half. And if it doesn't turn into an hour and a half, it's because I haven't loved God. And my love for God is not growing. And then I'm failing, and I'm going backwards if I don't go forward. All this pressure.
So performance-based.
Even performance-based, even when no one's watching. You know what I mean?
Right.
Because imagine, like, if I'm a worship leader, the feeling is, you know, everybody's there to critique. Because if you don't have the song, or if you don't flow prophetically, or if something as simple as, you know, se te sale un gallo, you know what I mean? That, like, oh, that guy, he's not in the spirit. And that's obviously because he doesn't pray enough. And that's obviously because he's in sin.
Yeah.
And it's like, you know, that pressure from the whole world is terrible. And then, so then how do I remedy that? Okay, well, I try harder, more effort, right? And it just got to a point where I'm like, okay, no, well, obviously it's not. That's not only is that not true, but it's also not sustainable because if I want to love God, if it's true that I only pray an hour, so that one day I could pray for 2.
Right.
There's only 24 hours in a day, and then what am I going to do? I'm to become a monk? I don't believe. I made, that was what was happening in my head, and I talking to God that way.
Yeah.
And then I'm like, okay, well, this doesn't make sense. And he goes, James, stop. There was one of those days where he's like, me praying. I'm like, God, I dedicate this first hour to you, this first 10% of the day to you, because Lord, you're my everything. Wow, I'm not gonna eat just so I can be with you. And he's like, he said, could you stop? And then I'm like, okay, what? And he goes, do you remember when you were 5 years old and this happened? You reminded me of a story that, like, remember, your dad passed away and this happened, and you were like, you at 6 years old, 5, 6 years old, you were like, God, come into my life. It's a simple prayer, like just be the Lord of my life. Mm-hmm. I did that prayer. And he goes, did you take that prayer seriously? I'm like, I don't remember that prayer.
I was 5.
It was 5. He goes, but I don't forget.
Dang.
And when he said it to me, and I'm like, I obviously started crying. Yeah. And then I'm like, he's like, I don't forget any of that. He goes, you may have not even taken it seriously, but I did. And your whole life is dedicated to me forever.
Yeah.
He goes, so stop dedicating an hour of your day to me and start inviting me into your day. Take me out of your prayer room. And then I'm like, it completely, that's what I'm saying. I don't know how to compartmentalize my relationship with God into an hour or into a work, any kind of act. It's like, and it says it in the Bible. The Bible says in Acts 17, he says, we live, move, and have our being in him. And this is Paul talking to the people of Athens who are worshiping other gods. And he goes, you guys are like people in a room with the lights off trying to find him, not realizing that the whole room is him.
Right.
Oh my God, like we can't escape him even if we try. David talks about, he's like, even if I make my room in hell, like if I make my bed in hell, he is there with me. Zephaniah talks about, like I could fall asleep because I'm over here like, God, I need to have the new song. Like please, 4 o'clock in the morning, because tomorrow I gotta sing at 9 a.m. in front of 9 million people or whatever. How I'm exaggerating the numbers.
What's the biggest amount of people that you've sang?
So I think in one instance, in person, I've seen probably like almost close to a million people all at once in one place.
Where was this?
This was in Ethiopia.
My goodness. Okay.
Yeah.
I'm sorry, because so that people can have an idea. People that don't know who you are and like, dude, 800, 900. That's a lot of people, bro.
That is a lot of people.
To think
you don't
Marlin
think about
Stadium,
it as people anymore. It's just a sea of people.
Right.
Yeah.
Because for a perspective, I guess, like the Marlin Stadium holds 37,000.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? That's not even 100,000, right?
Yes.
So we're talking, okay.
Yeah, times. Yeah,
times
I'm
sorry
10.
to interrupt on
no,
that.
No, absolutely. It's absolutely true. So, I think that, I guess to add to the gravity of that moment, of that situation, that's what he was telling me. He's like, stop worrying about what you can do. Like, pretty much, unlink who you, I love that thing. That just reminded me of it.
Yeah.
Unlink who you are to me with what you do for me. Unlink that, because your whole life is mine.
Yeah.
And everything that I do, everything that I've done, this is God talking to me. It's like, and he says it over and over again in the Bible verses, just in case you don't believe that God speaks to somebody like this.
Yeah.
Just read if you don't hear God the way I'm saying it, God, you can hear God. Just read your Bible out loud, because it says it there.
Yep.
Then you'll hear the voice of God.
Yeah.
But he literally does everything. Again, he plants a garden with the intention to spend eternity with me. So he literally says, he goes, I do all of that. I did it all before I put you in the garden. I spent 5 days before that. Preparing it all for what? No one was there. But he was already thinking, day 6, I'm putting my friend here. And we're going to have a good time together.
Yeah.
And there is no after that. There is no, God, there's people who like maybe listening and they're like, every time I go up to God and God's like, I feel like he's going to judge me or he's going to see my name. But first of all, he does. Second of all, he doesn't. He before he ever is a judge, just like in the garden, he wasn't a judge in the garden. He was just the father.
Right.
He was the creator and the dad. And you tell me, what's more important? Like, you have 2 kids now,
Yep.
right?
Yep.
Okay, so you have an idea of the love of the father, the idea
Yeah.
of the father, right?
Yeah.
What did you get your kid for Christmas? This last Christmas, if you can remember.
My son, a bike, his
Okay.
first bike.
Okay, what did he get you for Christmas?
Nothing.
Okay.
A big hug. I love you, Daddy.
Okay, so what was more important to you? The gift that he didn't even get you, or the hug that he gave you?
Oh, I mean the hug, dude.
Right? The
Ju-
fact that watching him
even just watching him receive the gift was a gift to me.
watching him enjoy it.
Yep.
What if that's how God thinks when he looks
Dang,
at
dude.
he
Come
looks
on.
at creation,
Yep.
and he's like, I don't care about any of this.
Yeah.
I'd like to watch my kids enjoy
Enjoy.
what I made for them.
Wow, bro. That's it. We can wrap it up. All right, ladies and gentlemen. No, I
That's it,
love
man.
that, bro. The simplicity
the
of God,
idea.
because we have.
That's
the
what I mean by
perspec-
enjoy. So I'm
Yeah.
like, if I'm gonna do business, okay, I'm gonna enjoy business. If I'm gonna
Yeah.
make relationships, and if I'm gonna make music, I'm gonna enjoy doing it.
Yeah.
And learning how to be content in both situations. If it ends up making me money, great. But if I lose, I can't lose that
Yeah.
in the pursuit of whatever it is that the world or hustle mentality, or like I said, the idea of self-actualization, this whole idea of like, I need to be the best version of myself. That's not what the Bible says. The Bible says you need to be more like Jesus.
Yep.
And the best version of yourself still doesn't compare to Jesus.
Come on. Yeah.
So if we aren't careful, you can deviate.
Yeah.
Becoming the best version of yourself, you can look exactly the opposite of what Jesus wants you to be. Not saying that he doesn't want you to have. In fact, that doesn't make sense. He does want you to have what it is that you need,
Yep.
and what it is that you want, because he's a good father.
Yeah.
But not because of anything that you did, right?
Right.
And that's especially true if you start changing what you know to be right, losing integrity to win this game in the eyes of men.
At this point in your life, you're just feeling pressures, right? At the end of the day, you're feeling outside pressures. What kind of pressures were you dealing with? Like the idea of having to perform, like you saying that you I have to wake up and pray for 2 hours because I have to, sing in front of 1 million people, right? Like
Yeah.
what kind of bred that thought of having to really like go out there and perform and all these things? Because obviously that didn't just happen.
Yeah,
right?
I think it's just the antiquated idea of that you can work for God's love.
Mm-hmm.
I think that's what it is at the end of the day.
But how did that even come about? Like you thinking that
Well, I mean,
having to work.
that's the culture that we come out of. Like, I don't know if it's specifically or if it makes it worse, the fact that I was also from a Hispanic culture as well,
Right.
where trabajadores, you have to work super hard. My
Right.
parents are Colombian. The church that I was at was a lot of Central Americans, and they're hardworking, and that's not a bad thing. You
Yeah.
know what I mean?
Right.
But it's also not. It's not the most important thing, right?
Right.
So like what you were talking about, the idea of priorities, well, you got to think about that too,
Yeah.
in terms of, what's more important, working smart or working hard. And then when it comes to God, the idea is he does all the work. That's why he gets all the glory. If I could do any of it by myself,
Yeah.
then first of all, it's not true. So I'd be lying, right?
Mm-hmm.
And I'd be glorying in myself, which I really can't.
Right.
It's the idea of I have to, again, we're talking about self-actualization, becoming more and more of yourself. When John the Baptist, he had to end up saying when Jesus finally came on the scene, right? And ruined
Yep.
John the Baptist's career
Right.
or success. But again, we're thinking about success in different parameters.
Right.
And it wasn't until he finally got it, right? John the Baptist finally got it. He goes, oh, this is Jesus.
Mm-hmm.
So my whole life was just to preach that he's coming, but now he's here.
Yeah.
So now he must increase and I must decrease.
Mm-hmm.
This is how it's supposed to go. And the disciples, the men that build you up just to tear you down, they find him in his cell in jail for having preached, that there was a Messiah coming.
Yeah.
And he had to come to John the Baptist gets to the realization, and he's like, no, it's him.
Yeah.
But they're like, but no, but you have more disciples than him. And it's like, it's not about that.
Mm-hmm.
It's about the fact that he's the Son of God,
Yeah.
and that's it.
Right.
But then who are you if not John the Baptist? I am exactly where I need to be. I've done exactly what I need to do.
Yeah.
So
Have that
learning-
confidence to say that.
Yeah, have that confidence, have that awareness, have that perception.
Yeah.
And even when the people around you are telling you, no, but like, remember who you are. He's like, no, I'm exactly who I am.
Yeah.
And I'm exactly where I need to be. It just took him a while to remember that.
Yeah.
Do
Do you identify with that, John the Baptist, being told like?
I identify, I identify with that. I identify with the story of at any given moment, someone is a David and someone is a Samuel. Someone is a, someone is Eli and someone is a Samuel, because we don't know, and it's impossible really with our own human perspective, because we're limited to time, right? And we're limited to space and matter, to understand how impactful and understand the significance of who you are to someone else. Like I said, I would have never known in the moment, the day that you got baptized, that all this was going to spring out of it. Right. The kind of family man that you're gonna become. And really only you can really tell that story, and I hope people really see it. I know they are, right? The everything that that God's been able to do with you, how many generational curses you had to break. Not even, like, we're going to talk about it too when it comes to the cash flow. Because the math is easy. The mindset is super hard, right? And then wherever it is you came from, I know you didn't come from wealth, so you're building it for the first time, like breaking all those things. But I wasn't thinking that when I saw you, when I saw you go to, you know what I mean? Like in me, it was like a coin flip. I'm like, there's this guy and this guy. They both look like they're coming from they're both coming from the world. They're both coming from like this idea of like, being cool and being successful. And I'm the weirdo because I'm just here to sing, right? As a worship singer, right? Me almost kind of like, man, I wish I could have had a little bit of that life to understand the value, whatever. I don't know what the heck is going on.
Right, because you grew up in the church.
I grew up in church, so I'm like, so part of me is like, yeah, this is great that this is happening. Another part of me is like, man, I wish I had like a testimony like that. Like I had every girl every different night, blah 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 blah. Right. And then but from your perspective, that moment was so critical that it changed everything. Because like you're never gonna know the significance of the life that you live in, the moments that you live in. But you can try, and the trying, I think it's enjoying. Yeah. Remember what Jesus said? He said, right before he's going to take this cross or whatever, the reason why he took this cross, the Bible talks about it was for the joy set before him. Mm-hmm. Right? So even all the pain that he was going through, you can enjoy it. You know what I mean? That's what I mean by like the whole idea of purpose and having your purpose right and your priorities right. I identify with that perspective. Yeah. Because Eli never knew. He was never going to know, right? Mm-hmm. That this little kid, Samuel, right? That his mom was a crazy woman, praying for a kid. God gave her a kid. Yeah. So all of a sudden, he's going to live in the temple. I'm going to teach him. I'm going to teach him everything I know. Right. As of now. Mm-hmm. Right? And then Samuel turns around, and eventually, and then there's one moment where, like, master becomes a student kind of thing. Right. And the student becomes a master, where Eli can't hear God anymore, and Samuel can. Samuel can't discern that it's God, but Eli can. So then this is what most people do. They go, Samuel, whoever your Samuel is in your life, right? Yep. He comes into your life and he goes, God, I feel like somebody, did you talk to me? Because I don't know, I heard something weird. Right. And they're like, oh, don't worry about it. Yep. Eli said something different. He goes, that was the Lord. He affirmed him, right? Mm-hmm. Validated him. Yep. And then he said something super critical. He allowed himself to become the student. And he goes,
this episode is brought to you by our partners at Wealthy Creator, the go-to experts for entrepreneurs looking to elevate their personal brand and unlock new income streams. With their proprietary Pineda method, you'll get a tailored blueprint. You'll master content production and discover monetization secrets that work. Don't just work hard, work smart. And let Wealthy Creator guide you to your next level of success. Visit the link in the description below to learn more and start transforming your personal brand today. Now back to the episode.
He goes, go back, listen to what God is telling you, and then come back and tell me, because I can't hear God anymore.
Wow, yeah.
The student becomes the master. Yeah. We don't know at any moment, the day that you got baptized, maybe I've been in church my whole life, you're starting your relationship with God. Right. Right? You're in that moment, I'm Eli. I know more about God than you. And
Right.
entre parentheses for the people who are listening to the podcast, not watching it. In parentheses, and you're Samuel, hearing God for the first time,
Right.
or wanting to learn God for the first time, and I'm there to sow the seed,
Right.
But now we're here in this podcast where I'm in a different part of my life, and so are you, right? You've learned things that I didn't, but maybe people around you have been able to sow into you 99% of everything that you have learned and acquired, and knowledge and wisdom and stuff like that. So, and or someone around you, maybe not me, but that person that's helped you get all the way to 99%.
Yeah.
To get that 1% that I couldn't get.
Mm-hmm.
Right? I gave you my 99%, but there's 1% that the only way I can get it
Yeah.
is if God puts it in you and I find a way to get it out of you.
That's facts. Yeah, that's good.
Isn't that crazy?
That's crazy.
So in that way, going back to that one moment that I had with the Lord, and he's like, well, your eternal life is to know me. I'm like, okay. So then what does that mean? If eternal life is to know me, that means that getting to know me takes an eternal life.
Yep.
So he goes, there is no more striving. It's going to take you forever.
Yeah.
So it's like there is no goal. There is no 1
goal.
hour to get to 2 to get to 3.
Right,
It's like
right.
like the goal is just to know him.
And literally nips in the butt the whole idea of performance is that there's nothing that you could do right now, tomorrow, or in 100 years from now to be able to fulfill that unforeseen goal or whatever it is.
Yeah,
right.
Exactly.
Right.
And then here's an Einstein quote that I don't know if it was Einstein. I think it might have been. But it was like the rate of knowledge grows one way, right? Linearly, I guess. But then the rate of ignorance grows exponentially.
Yeah.
Meaning you don't know
what
you don't know until you find something new.
Yeah.
So just now put that into God's perspective, like thinking about like getting to know God more. It's like as soon as I learned something new about God, that makes me rethink everything I thought I knew about him. Not in a contradictory way, but it's almost like seeing it in a new light.
Right.
Like, oh, what?
Right.
Like, like God, God is the creator. He's an amazing creator. Like, wow, like he made me and this and that. Like, wow, it's amazing. And then you realize like he's not just a creator, he's a father. Oh, snap. What does that mean?
Yeah.
And now he's still creator, but now he's father. Now you're seeing him in a different perspective. What was I going to say with that? Jesus.
It's fine. It'll come back.
It'll come back.
coming back to or leaning on the love side of things, because I mean we could sit here and argue that you're someone from, at least from my, and correct me if I'm wrong, from my perspective, you love music, right? You love music, or at some point maybe you loved it to the point where it was the only thing that you were really focusing on. You love God, right? And your form of showing that love to him was to sing and connect people. Because right, like the role.
That's where I was going.
There we go. Say it before we forget.
Yeah. Before I forget. So then, knowing him takes an eternal life, right? And then, if knowing him takes an eternal life, then I don't need to be any particular place, right? I'm over here thinking that having an eternal life means living in a castle in heaven, and that's not true.
Right.
Knowing him, eternal life starts when you get to know him, because knowing him is eternal life, right? And then I'm like, okay, well, if that's true, then I could do that here. I could do that there.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? That's where, like, the idea of, like, I want to be done here.
Right.
You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Get me out of earth. It's ghetto.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? And he goes, and then that's when I asked that question. I'm like, so then why, trying to say it in a nice way.
Right.
I'm like, but then just take me, and I'll just be in your presence forever.
In a nice way.
I'll never have to, like, fall into sin again.
Yeah,
it'll be
easier.
It'll be easier, and you'll be forever with me. I'll be forever with you, and I'll worship you. Blah blah blah. And he goes, no. I'm like, well, then why?
Yeah.
Right. I'm acting like a little kid, right?
There you go.
Which is that's what I am. Act like a little kid. And I ask him why. He goes, because there is something inside of you that someone else needs. And if you really want to get to know me, then there's something inside of somebody else that you haven't met yet. But that could be your Samuel.
Yeah.
That when they hear something from God, if you can discern it, you can go, hey, that is from God. That's God. Go learn it, and then come back and tell me.
Have you been able to identify what it is that's inside of you that somebody else needs? Do you know?
I think this particular conversation is part of it. I don't know if it's all of it because I haven't learned it all.
Right.
But I think this particular conversation is part of it.
Yeah.
It's because I really want to remove a lot of these things that we've
Stigmas.
adopted, stigmas, all of these mindsets of like you can work for God's love, or the idea that you can there's ways to prove that you love God, or
Right.
any kind of boasting,
Or there's a metric.
Or there's a
to
metric,
how
yeah.
much you love God.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Or how the idea of what you can become and all the things that you can do
Right.
somehow define who you are. And really that has nothing to do with anything, because God doesn't judge what you do or what you don't do.
Yeah.
He judges your intentions.
Yeah.
So
Yeah.
you can even do the wrong things with the right intention and please God,
Right.
and you can also do the right things with the wrong intention and displease God.
Right. For sure.
So how do we walk that line?
Yeah.
That's the
That's what we
man.
gotta
I'm
figure
like,
out.
that's hard. It's hard to figure out, but I think that's why God says you. I really want to say this.
Yeah.
That's why we need the Holy Spirit.
Come on.
That's
Yeah.
why we need. That's why we need people who are also in that same pursuit, helping one another, not in competition with one another. Who
Yes.
loves God more? You know what I
Yeah.
mean? And who's blessed by God more, right? Because we can take it to any perspective. Music, I wrote one song, but you wrote 10.
Right.
Or my song got this many streams, but yours got this many streams. You must obviously
Have a better relationship with
really
God.
and that could be completely false.
Yeah.
Because there's a lot of people who make really good music, who make really good music that no one's ever heard of, that
Yep.
blesses who it blesses.
Yep.
And there's other people who are propped up by other men to
Right.
make them, you know what I mean?
Right.
Like, but John the Baptist, you're the man. Like,
Yeah.
don't worry about that guy.
Yeah.
I'm your disciple, and I'm always gonna follow you. And he's like,
Yes.
no, I'm in a prison cell for this reason, because I was just supposed to tell you who he was. He is supposed to be the person you're gonna follow. So you're my disciples for a season.
Right.
Be his disciple now, because I'm his disciple now. He's
Yeah.
the one I've been waiting for.
Right. Now you were through this journey, kind of like leaning back on that, because this is all part of the love scenario, where it's like you're following your passions. Maybe you've also been told by man, like, hey, you have this gift. This is what you, and then you've also gravitated towards that. You kind of gone that route. So you're kind of living out this life of pursuing your love, pursuing your passions, pursuing and living this life of just following God and going after him. But, I guess in the midst of this, you kind of lost track of what it really was to please God, which wasn't the performance or anything like that.
Absolutely.
At what point during this journey, right? Because you've been, singing and ministry for so long. At what point did you realize, like, dude, I've been duped. Like, I've been chasing something that isn't really the heart of God. Like, when did that even happen?
Yeah, I think it was definitely in that moment, right? Because I had you go through a period of like questioning everything, right?
Yeah.
So it was definitely in that one day, that one moment where I'm like, why am I doing any of this?
Yeah,
Like,
but this was like what, 3 weeks ago?
that was in
where we like, yeah.
oof, when I finally had all those answers. That was probably like in 2012 when I had that.
Oh, really? Okay.
Yeah, I mean, I've been in like I said, I've been in church my whole life. I received God for myself when I was like 5 or 6.
Right.
I started preaching when I was 8.
Right.
I was a youth leader when I was like 11.
Yeah.
And then I started playing music when I was like 15. I picked it up pretty quickly. I hated music when I was a kid, and then but I always loved worship, but I just hated the idea of like studying music.
Right.
Now I can't get enough of it. I love it.
Yeah.
Stay up to like way too late watching people break down like this melody is like this, and I'm over here like, oh,
Geeking
really?
out
That's
about
why I'm a geek, absolute geek, right? I think it's great. And so yeah, but I guess around like 2012
you come to the
2013.
realization
Yeah.
that like you don't have, it's your love for God is not performance based. It's,
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah, but this what happens is that right around that time is also the time where I go from being a worship leader in a church for like 100, 200 people to being in a church with thousands of people with
Right.
hundreds of thousands of people that they reach
Right.
via online
Streams
or
and
whatever streams, and then even getting a chance to be with them in person
Yeah.
by traveling, you know what I mean? And so then the idea is, I know what I know.
Right.
Now fight for what you know.
So you're now battling the complete opposite thought.
Yeah, because the idea of the surrounding, right?
Yeah.
Is that, well, if God brought you here because you did this, or because you can do that, and if you do more, then you'll get more. And it's like, well, what, like that's who put me on this
roller coaster.
this roller coaster. Who put me on this wheel? What is it?
Hamster wheel.
A hamster wheel. Who put me on this hamster wheel? That's not what I wanted, right?
Okay.
I was a lot happier when I didn't because at one point I was working full time for a church, and I used to say it as a joke, but also like, you know, there's always truth in every joke, and I would say, man, I was more of a Christian when I was less of a Christian, when I didn't know that this side of the Christian world, like working in a church full time and or being part of a church, like I felt like more of a Christian when I was folding clothes at Express.
Dude, I can identify with that so hard, because I feel more of a Christian now than when I was like 3 days out of the week at church serving and all these different things. Like my relationship with God actually grew when we moved from Miami to Charlotte, where we didn't have anybody really, no friends, no family and all that. We just depended on each other, my wife and I, no kids yet, and our relationship with God. And then building this thing that God put in us to build, this business, right?
Absolutely.
So I can totally identify with, like, when you're sometimes not obvious. This is not to condemn like congregating and all these things, but you know, it's just to show that the evidence of you being closer to God is not how much you serve and how much you do the thing, right?
Absolutely,
but more so your relationship with God, really that, right? So I can identify with that. I'm sorry to like cut you off on that, but.
I love it. I think it's true. And yeah, like you said, I don't want to vilify the idea, or you know, if you want to do it,
right?
You know, work for a church. If you want to make music for God and stuff like you like do. I like what the Bible says. He goes, todos me es lícito, mas no todo me conviene. Meaning, like, everything is legal to you. You can do whatever you want, just not everything's going to be beneficial to you. And you have to have what you said in the beginning. Have your priorities straight. What is your priorities? Like God first, and everything else will be added.
Yep.
And what's the hard part, and it's like the part of growing up too, where it's like mom and dad, they tell you these are the rules, and then you realize and you follow them because like they're your mom or your dad, right? And then you know you're gonna do it, but then
they know better.
Yeah, they know better and everything. And then it turns into wait. Your assumption is they're telling you what to do. I don't know. We never learned this. We just assume it, right?
Right.
They're telling you what they do.
Yep.
And then you get to a point where you're like, oh, they don't do what they tell me to do, right? So then why do I need to do what? So then it becomes what? Do as I say, not as I do, right? And then it's like, and then that's when you start to from idolizing these people that help formulate you and provide for you, care for you. Right. You vilify them, and then you humanize them, right? That's the idea that I was having with church mentality, with people who do church with those mindsets, right? Right. Which is why I had to go to God and I had to ask him, well, then why? Why would God, who can have a personal relationship with me and who does, because I have to believe that he wants to, and that I have one, right? Or I'm completely crazy, right? But I do have one, right? Yes, I do. Okay, great. So then why do I need to go there to have one? And then actually looking in the Bible and actually spending time with the Lord for him to tell you his why, not your why. Because if you don't have his why, then and you don't have your why, somebody else is going to give you a why. Right. And their why is going to be
distorted.
It's going to be distorted, or it's going to be, they're going to say all the right things to you, but in practice, it's not going to be the same.
Right.
So it's going to be like, oh, we're doing it for the kingdom. We're doing it blah, blah, blah. But behind closed doors, it's like, we're doing it for revenue.
Right.
It's like, oh, no, but God's going to bless you. God's going to bless you. Yeah, God's going to bless you, but he's actually blessing he's not blessing the singer who's singing the song and who wrote the song, because the singer's not making the money.
Right.
You are.
Right. It's
but God is blessing somebody, but it ain't the right people, right? So it's like, what? Okay.
Yeah.
All right, so what's actually going on here?
Yeah.
You know what I mean?
Yeah. No, I mean, actually, it's a good segue into the cash flow side of things. This is something that I'm genuinely curious about when it comes to not just the music industry as a whole, but also when it comes to like bands inside of a church, like how they operate. So when you're saying, you know, somebody's benefiting from all these streams, because for me, from the outside looking in, right, the only metric that I have to kind of gauge, I guess, music in general is like the worldly music and how it operates. And I know, you know, these rappers, these pop singers and all of that, they bank, right? And streams equals money. Streams equals tours. Tours equals more money, right? So from the perspective of that. Is that the case also in like when you're in a music band? Because I mean, for perspective, right? Like you personally wrote a bunch of songs, right? You guys made albums. I don't know how many albums you guys did or you were a part of.
Yeah, more than a few.
Yeah, more than a dozen, right?
Yeah.
You know, you've went out and toured the nations, right? All these different things. Is it true to say that it doesn't really operate in the same way from a financial standpoint, from a cash flow standpoint, than if you are a band like freaking NSYNC or the Backstreet Boys from a financial standpoint? Is that not the case for compensation for you guys? How is that even structured?
Well, when it comes to compensation for me, I didn't get paid for the songs I wrote.
So no royalties, no nothing.
It's been really it was told to me that it was just part of my salary to write the songs.
Oh, really?
Yeah.
So it was part of the negotiation for you to just
wrote the songs and I did it for the Lord and I did it for the people, but that was it.
Is that the like a specific or unique scenario to you?
I think that was a unique scenario for me.
Okay.
I think other people have a different structure. You know what I mean? So and in that aspect, I would assume they profit the way any other artist would profit.
Right, like a label.
Yeah,
like a
they
label.
have their labels, they have their contracts as artists. They make a percentage of it.
Yeah.
You know, after publishing company gets paid back for making the initial investment, right? And and then they get paid off for the streams and stuff like that. But that we were just doing it just kind of like for fun.
So dang. So okay. So I'm trying to wrap my head around this because so you wrote all these songs, you performed these songs, and then I guess you just never it was like because of your ignorance that you couldn't negotiate.
It was my ignorance. I have
because you
I had no idea.
Dude.
I'm freshly out of college. Or no, actually I was just like a college student wanting to be an architect, right?
Right.
I ended up having this opportunity to be part of this band and to do this full time, and I was like, all right, let's do it. I'm thinking I'm doing it for the Lord.
Yeah.
And I'm thinking, they have my best intention.
Which you are doing it for the Lord. Your intention.
Which is like doing it for the right reasons, or,
right?
Whatever. And then other people who are you just trust blindly. You know what I mean?
Right.
Because you think that they also are
have
thinking
your best
have best interests. And I don't want to make it church specific because that happens in the world too. 100%. You know what I mean?
But I guess what I'm kind of, for me, is more of a shock because you would expect, right? Like if it's in the church, you would assume that it's more so structured in a way that it would be more sound and more fair and all of these different things. Because I mean, I don't know if I'm wrong in thinking this, right? If something happens in the world, you get scammed in the world is one thing, right? Okay, you can kind of almost expect it. But if it happens inside of the church, it's kind of like, dude, this is complete opposite of what we are teaching here, right? So for me, it's a little bit hard for me to digest that pill.
I get
that,
Yeah. Well, I've actually taken to people talk about like church hurt and stuff.
Yeah.
I don't call it that.
What do you call it?
I call it hurt.
Hurt.
Yeah, because people are people.
Right.
People are and people are gonna be whether they're in
The
a
church
building or in another building.
Right.
Same things can apply to them. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Where they can be disingenuous, they could be trustworthy or not. You know what I mean? That's why again I was like I had better connections, and better relationships with people when I wasn't so Christian. Meaning I didn't live a full time ministry life. You know what I mean? Yeah. And you can't judge. You can't be like, oh well, I got church hurt. No, you didn't get church hurt. You got hurt by people who live in the like who are people.
Right. It just so happened to be in church.
Yeah, they just happen to be in church. Yeah.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? But church is nothing but a piece of paper. You really think about it, it's just a piece of paper
it's an organization.
That's an organization. That's it. You know what I mean?
But that's the thing. The society doesn't see it just like a organization. It's like we deem it to be something where it should be.
Absolutely.
We hold it to another different standard.
Absolutely,
is what I'm saying.
Yeah.
Right. And not just the church itself, but the representatives, especially when it comes to like the head of the church.
Absolutely.
We're holding them to a different standard. That's why when you see scandals and stuff in the news of pastors, it's different than you hear a lawyer, sleeping around and all these different, you know what I'm saying? It's like completely.
Yeah.
So that's what I'm kind of like wrapping my head around. So when it comes to like you being in this band, very successful band, at least from the outside looking in.
Mm-hmm.
I don't know numbers as far as streaming because they don't really share that stuff.
Mm-hmm.
Do you know like what kind of numbers you guys were doing from sales and streaming or any of that? Was that kept in the dark? Or?
I guess kind of kept it in the dark, or just somebody else
Handled that.
handled it.
Yeah.
And to not put like all the blame on other people. I would say.
You were turning.
It was my fault. I was just like, yeah, I'm just doing what I love. I'm doing something passionate, and
you don't need all that.
I don't want to think about that stuff. You know
Right.
what I mean? Like I just want to think about this, and then I'm hoping and praying and wishing that that whatever's going on there is in the up and up. You know what I mean?
Because you were on this basically.
Because that was never my perspective. That was never my. My goal was never to make money with music that way. It was just a passion of mine that I was happened.
Yeah, because you were a young kid going into this too. Like you did
19.
You were 19.
19 when I started.
Yeah. I mean, that's still. I mean, I think about myself at 19, dude, and I'm a kid, right?
Yeah.
But at the same time, it's like you're going into it, of course, not knowing what you don't know. Like you unless you get an agent that's gonna go and bat, and they're gonna be compensated for whatever you are going to receive and all of that. You're not really thinking about it. It's just like, hey, I get to travel the world. I get to meet cool people, sing in front of hundreds of thousands of people.
Yeah.
Like this is my emotional paycheck.
Yeah.
But reality
I get to do all this for God.
Right.
Yeah? And it's like, yeah.
But then
are you doing it?
Right.
You know?
And then the reality hits too, where it's like, dude, I do need the finances to come, because I don't know what kind of lifestyle personally, from a financial standpoint, were you living? Like traveling the world, hundreds of thousands of streams, I'm sure. We don't know, right? But we're speculating. But there was amazing songs that you and the team wrote that I, to this day, still listen to, what kind of lifestyle? Because it wasn't like MTV Cribs lifestyle where you had
to live with my parents.
So, oh my gosh!
So to live with my parents, driving my Camry.
The Camry that you were just telling me.
That same Camry.
That same Camry.
Yeah,
that has 300,000,
360,000 miles on it. Just straight up beating up that car.
Because you would also commute. For the people that don't know, you would commute from Broward
to
Miami to work, and that's how long of a commute was that?
About an hour.
So
every day.
one way. So 2 hours.
100 miles a day.
100 miles a day.
50.
So now we know how you got it to 300,000.
Yeah.
Because you were working at this church for how long?
Almost 10 years, almost a decade. Yeah.
Really?
Yeah.
Dude, time flies. So
Time
this is
flies,
okay. So this
bro.
is where I'm kind of like.
I started at 19 and I'm 31 now.
Yeah. So this is the point where I'm like, okay. So in 2012, you said, okay, I came to this realization that, what the real heart of God is. It's not me performing. It's not all these things. But then simultaneously, now you're getting introduced to this world of I was going to say the glitz and glamour, but it's really just mostly like the accolades, the exposure, being perceived in the public eye, at least in these sphere of influence of Christian music. As someone who is made it, right?
Yeah.
And then you're battling that idea of, having to go out there and perform, but yet you're still like, you're not thinking about like, hey, I'm going to get married. Like, what was I guess from a perspective of physical, like things that you need to like live your life, aside from you worshiping God and creating music and going after the things that you love, like, okay, like, finding your wife and actually, building a home and all these things. How does that even play a role to where it gets extended, a decade? Yeah.
Well, I guess from what I saw when I was there, the examples that I did have of people who were, they were having families and, building their lives while still being there in that place.
Yeah.
They did it a lot by faith. Right. Very few. Maybe some of them got into real estate. Other people, they had different
side hustles.
And so they were still volunteers, and they just had their job there. But they had they were volunteers, but they had their job on full time for their family. Right. Right. And they would just sing whenever they could. But you whenever they could. But I was there full time, so I'm over here like, oh, I'm just gonna trust God and live. Yeah. Right. I got really good at budgeting. I got really good at what's it called? What's that guy's name? The guy that teaches
Dave Ramsey.
Yeah, I got really good at Ramsey. I'm like, all right, I'm gonna pay off this debt.
Oh
this
my
debt.
goodness!
As long as I'm debt free, I'm good. And like it's not until now that I realized that you're debt free, but you're still broke. You're still at zero. Like you're not negative, but you're fine. You're still broke. And at any moment, anything can happen.
And
you
you're
break
back.
you break your leg, or you crash your car, and all of a sudden, you're back. You're back to worse
Negative.
than where you were before, with no hope of nothing getting better.
Yeah.
So yeah, but my perspective at the time was just like, oh, God is just
He'll
gonna
provide. So you were living by faith for a decade.
pretty much, yeah.
In
like,
essence.
I thank God I did get a salary, but it wasn't enough for me to live.
To have a family.
No.
It was enough for you to provide for yourself.
Yeah, it was enough. Yeah, just to kind of like
And
just provide for myself enough to get to and fro from work and eat.
Right.
lunch.
That's wild, bro.
Yeah.
That's insane.
Mm-hmm.
So now.
And there's can I say this?
Yes,
I do
please.
remember saying this because it wouldn't make sense for somebody who, like I said, had that experience that I did have with God right around the beginning of this journey, starting with the band that I was with and at the church that I was at.
Mm-hmm.
But it was what kept me there and what had me there was like, okay, be the change that you wish to see in the world, right? Gandhi, trying to follow. I'm supposed to be following Jesus, and I'm following Gandhi, right?
Yeah.
And again, like I think that it's nice, but it's not practical, which is something that it's not sustainable.
Mm-hmm.
There is a moment where that doesn't work anymore. You know what I mean?
Right.
Which is, I guess I wanted to talk a little bit about that as well too.
Yeah.
Because if I could wrap up all of 2023,
Mm-hmm.
because I left there in the end of 2022, right? Yeah. So and I spent the whole year like mulling this over again. That's what I do. I play with my Rubik's Cube in my head until I got it, and then distill it into one thing. I would say this: 2023 taught me one thing, which is you cannot expect healthy relationships with unhealthy people. So of course you pray and you love unconditional, but relationships require three things, not just one, not just love. You need respect and you need trust.
Right.
And the only way to know if you have respect and trust in a relationship is if you have healthy boundaries and how somebody responds to a boundary that you have.
Right.
You know what I mean? If they continuously cross it, they don't respect you.
Right.
Right? And if you live in fear of them crossing it, then you don't trust them.
Right.
So you can't have a relationship as much as you love them. And there's a lot of people that like you were asking me, do I still talk to people? I do. Do I still love them? Of course, because the Bible. There's some people like you only love them because the Bible tells you to. Because if not, you know what I mean?
Yeah.
But no, I still genuinely love people. There's a lot of people part of my family, and I'm gonna say this even for people who have family who you're like, no, but you have to give, and you have to go the extra mile, and you have to die like Jesus.
Right.
You have to. It's like yes and no, because God Himself says, love the Lord, to love God with all your heart, all your soul, all your mind, right? And then love your neighbor as yourself. Meaning you cannot love somebody more
than you love yourself.
Right. And it's also foolish to expect somebody to love you more than they love themselves.
Right.
You're gonna end up in a toxic situation. You're gonna end up in
Right.
a situation where someone's gonna get abused. So where someone's gonna get hurt.
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah.
And a lot of times it's I don't know if it was just growing up in a Hispanic culture where you just give, you give,
Yep.
and you grit and you bite your tongue and you blah blah blah. You just keep on going, and then also the idea of like you have to suffer for the cause and do all
Right.
these things for God, and it's like no.
Mm-hmm.
No, my life is to enjoy. Jesus was the one who suffered,
Yeah.
so I can have a life and to live it, a life that is abundant, right?
Right. No, it's funny because
I really wanted to open up that wormhole, like
No, I love that.
that
I love it.
Pandora's box.
Yeah, no, I think it's crazy because I remember, when we grew up pretty much in the same church, and I remember when my friends would tell me that they were trying to get a job at church and stuff like that. I don't know why I always had this instinct in me that there was something not fully, and it was going. Now that you're saying it, boundaries. Is that there weren't any clear boundaries to where you can identify, or there wasn't like a sand on, the line on the sand where you can say, hey, this is serving, this is work, this is, so it was too blurry. So whenever close people to me would say, hey, I'm going to go and get a job at church and all these things, the closest people to me, not everybody, I would be like, no, don't do it. Don't do it. Like, serve with all your heart. Do the thing that you think will please God and will bring the souls and all of that. But don't go work. And at that point, maybe it was the naiveness in me, or maybe I'm wrong in saying that, or maybe it was the experiences and the things that I saw that said don't do it. But it was to a point where I was like almost selling them on the fact not to go out in there and give their all, and not have that boundary of being able to differentiate, you know, work and service. And, you know what I'm saying?
Absolutely. You know, and when I think about it now, I think about it in my memory. I'm like, was it that there wasn't a boundary, or did we choose to ignore it? Because I remember there was a lot of times where what was said was, if you want to do your own thing, that's you having your own agenda, and you can't have your own agenda if you really want to be successful. Your calling is attached to this calling, so if you serve this calling, God will take care of you. And it's like, that sounds like manipulation, right? And if you don't like big words, I'll use a small one. That sounds like a lie, because it is a lie. Because that's the weirdest thing I've ever heard in my life. Right, you know what I mean? But that's the stuff that was used to manipulate. You know what I mean? So we talk about abuse, and you know, people like, I don't like to use those words like very, you know, just everywhere, lightly, you know, very lightly. But you know,
but abuse in what way?
Huh?
But abuse in what way would you
like? Well, like that. Like you have to die to yourself. To manipulate somebody, to make somebody constantly feel guilty, or to use fear tactics. You know what I mean? Yeah. And then you know, even now, it's like, if you leave, you know, and I don't want to talk about any specific church. So, you know, people who are listening to me,
this is your experience.
Don't know who I am, you know, and that's what I'm saying. You don't have to know who I am neither. You don't have to Google me to find out what church I was at. And then this is happening everywhere. It's happening in families. It's the same way, because where there is relationships, it can happen. There's two people, and you know, somebody's gonna mess up. You know what I mean? Right. So that's why you have to have your own. First of all, you have to have a relationship with God, because that's gonna be what's gonna help you have a relationship with yourself. Right. Right. And then the relationship that you have with yourself, that's what that Bible verse is doing. It's telling you, love God and have this relationship with God, right? So that you can love others as you love yourself. So there's three relationships happening there.
So love triangle.
One's God. It's a love triangle. But it's exactly. So you have to love God first. Yeah. And then you have to love you first, second, right? You have to love God, love you, so that the way that you love you is the way you're going to love somebody else. Right. So anywhere there's relationships.
It's the concept of the airplane. Like, you put the mask first before you can put it on someone else.
Absolutely. Yeah. Exactly. Then exactly. Then the kids, then the, you know.
Yeah, everybody else.
Neighbor, right? Exactly. Yeah. So it's the same idea.
So what was, I guess, going on? Because now fast forward to 2022 when you said, you know what?
I'm out.
The heck with it.
Yeah.
Like, what happened, I guess, because I'm sure people that do know you are curious, like, what the story behind that was. I'm pretty sure it wasn't like a flip of a switch, like decision that you had to make and whatever. Like, it was a culmination of time, of a decade worth of, you know, serving and working and laboring and, you know, mistreatment and all these different things. Like, where were you at?
So what
or
happened,
what's the story there?
The story was, again, the idea that you can be the change that you wish to see, and in the world, right? And
so this is the thought that you would tell yourself.
That's the thought. I'm like, okay, so there's so much good there. Yeah, there's a lot of good that happens there. I'm not gonna sit there and just be like, this is the worst place ever. Right. A lot of good things that are happening there. A lot of good that I received from there. Right. Right. Man, if this one thing could change, man, this thing would be amazing. This would be awesome. This would be exactly where I live. I wouldn't care that I drive a Camry, because I know that I'm doing something important in my life. I know that I'm here for a reason, and I'm helping people, and I'm blessing people, and who doesn't want to be that person? Who doesn't want to be there, right? Right. The stuff that I walked away from, but it was when I lost hope that things could change. Wow. When I lost hope that the leadership would change, that I'm like, then it's what am I doing here? Now I'm doing a disservice to myself. There's nobody else who's abusing me except for me. Yeah. Because I'm picking up crosses that are not meant for me. Right. I'm doing things now no longer for God, but to keep up with the appearance and the perception of what people expect of James. Again, self-actualization, right? Yeah. And that's what they do. It's over and over and over again. People build you up just to tear you down. And you build yourself up into this thing just to realize that, is this really what I wanted for me? Is this
Right.
really what God wanted for me? You know what I mean? And
Yeah.
and you don't hit that you hit that wall when you're like, oh, I have it. I have what people think or told me I'm supposed to want.
Right.
I'm still not happy.
Yeah.
You know what I mean?
Yeah.
And then on top of that, it's like, okay, well then let me find something important to do in the midst of all this darkness. Let me be the light. Let me bring the change. Let me make an impact. And blah blah blah. And then it has to get to a point where like, hey James, this isn't healthy for you anymore.
Yeah.
The very thing that you love, right? We're talking about things that we love, passion and stuff like that. The very thing that you love, the very people you love, you're starting to resent. Music, you're starting to hate. You're starting to feel like a chore. You know what I mean?
It's a burden now.
It's a burden now, or it's it's a performance now, and you feel like the monkey, and they're just crank, you know, and that's just what it was. And I'm like, okay, he's not changing. There's nothing else for me to do here. You know what I mean? And you have to,
because at some point
consider yourself now. What am I going to do?
For those 10 years, there was hope that things would change. Obviously, you wouldn't have stayed there.
Absolutely,
that wasn't the case.
Yeah.
Now, what was it that, like, in that moment? Because, you know, when you decided to leave, like, there was a lot of stuff happening, and a lot of people were leaving at the same time.
Mm-hmm.
What was it that happened that it made, like, a domino effect was occurring? Again, this is from the outside looking in. I'm in Charlotte. I'm just seeing people like left and right, you know, tucking the deuces. Was there something in specific that triggered everything? Do you know? Are you able to pinpoint?
I think everybody has a different a different story, and I don't want to talk for everybody.
Just you.
But if this, from my perspective, this is what I think happened. I think, like I said, everybody loved feeling like we were part of something bigger, something important, something that was impacting the world, something that we were doing for God together, and what we think is right.
Mm-hmm.
And somewhere along that journey, right, we're thinking that the person who's leading us is doing everything right as well. Person of integrity, person of whatever, like he's leading us the right way. We want to follow that. And then the divorce happens, right? And that for me was like, for a lot of people it was a shock, because they're like, oh wait, our fearless leader, our leader that could do no wrong, something's wrong, right? So what is happening right now? So now it's like,
was it a shock for you?
It wasn't a shock for me.
Okay. Yeah.
It was a relief for me, because I thought that was going to be the opportunity for change, for things to get better.
Right.
But it didn't.
Right.
It doubled down.
It got worse.
Negative. Exactly. Dang. It got even worse. It was like, okay, well,
why do you think it wasn't a shock for you?
It wasn't a shock for me because I heard that it was going to happen years before it happened.
Okay.
So I was kind of like waiting for it.
Right.
And I'm like,
and
hoping that when that happens, that would be the opportunity for me to be like, okay, well, here is the moment to be the change, to bring that change, and to be light in darkness, and blah, blah, blah. All these things that I believe are great and noble pursuits, I guess.
Yeah.
But you obviously with boundaries, and not you don't have to be a martyr. You know what I mean? Like you can still have your boundaries. You still have autonomy, right? Because you know, God is important. First of all, God's the one who dies for everybody, right?
Yeah.
So
that was the real turning key moment.
Yeah, when I saw that everybody was like, okay, our fearless leader has fallen. I can't believe it. They were like, I don't want to speak for anybody, but this is what I think might have happened.
Right.
They collectively were like, okay, we still love you, but we don't want everything that you have anymore. Before it was like, you have success in ministry, you have success in your calling, in your field, in your purpose, and blah 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 blah.
But I don't want to.
So I want to follow you just like that, right?
Right.
I want to follow you because I want to be just like you, right? Yeah. And then that happens, and it's like, oh, okay. Well, you still have a lot of good, but that part I don't want, right? So I'm going to try to fix that part so I could be a better version of you, right? Because every father would want their kids to be not like them or as successful as them, but better version of them, right?
Yeah.
So it's like, okay, so if I can just take everything you have, but also, you know, have a healthy healthy relationship, healthy marriage, healthy kids, then okay, then I'll be good. Because then I'll have ministry and I'll have family together. Right. And then that was when it was like, I don't know if he took it personally or something like that. But
because you actually brought this up to him?
They did, not me.
Oh, okay.
You know, like I said, I didn't get that close. I didn't get the opportunity, right? And also, I was gonna.
You don't have access to him?
No, not really like that. the idea was, I was gonna say something, that they were trying to do it, right? So I'm over here just like, all right,
okay,
great.
rooting for them.
Yeah, rooting for. Yeah, let's all be the change together. I'll fight the good fight.
Because it was a collective thing. It wasn't
Yeah.
just you having the savior syndrome. In that, like, I see the good here. There's potential here.
There's potential
I
here,
want to
yeah,
see
yeah.
this change, and if this change happens,
Then
this is
it'll
going to be the
great.
amazing place. It was a collective of
Yeah.
people, I guess, in the band,
Mhm.
right? Or
Well,
like
yeah, and all of
outside-
all the leadership.
all the
Yeah,
leadership.
there's a lot of leadership there
Okay.
too that
Yeah.
felt the same way.
Right.
And that's.
I felt the same way, by the way,
Yeah.
too, just for clarity. Like,
Uh,
and I wasn't even as close as you guys.
Yeah.
It-
So
it was a
imagine.
yeah. I can
So
only
you
imagine.
have this person on the pedestal, then you're like, okay, well he's human, but we can help him because we love him,
You're right.
right?
Right.
So let's help him. So God is going to use this to change, and because we always want to find the good, like
Right.
God is going to make out of this really uncomfortable, really bad, really sad situation, because no one ever wants that to
Right.
happen, right? But He's going to turn it for good, right? And then that's going to be really good.
Mhm.
So it kind of felt like that for a little bit, like okay, we're all getting together because we're all hurting together, we're all grieving together.
Right.
It sucks.
You're locking
And then
arms.
locking arms, like we're praying for each other and blah blah blah. And then all of a sudden, it goes even further down, where it's like,
How could it
okay.
even go more down than what it already was?
okay, well, anybody who has been through a divorce, I've had divorces happen in my family. You know, like
Yeah.
I've seen it in close proximity, right?
Right.
So, what is relationship usually? Everyone says like it's 50-50, right?
Yeah.
Let's say it's not 50-50. It's
not.
100-100. Okay?
100.
In fact, that
That's
makes
the
my
real.
point even worse. But let's just say, like even more, like even harder. Let's say it's just 50-50.
Yeah.
Can you at least admit that if you have a failed marriage, that you're responsible for 50% of it?
Right.
Okay.
Yes.
So
That part.
exactly. So it didn't happen. It happened with you. It didn't happen to you.
Mhm,
It wasn't like the other person who decided to leave you didn't leave you to make your ministry fall.
Right.
There
Right.
was something that happened.
Right.
You didn't. It wasn't a crisis
That's
that
been
happened.
happening, yeah.
That's been happening exactly. It also didn't happen overnight.
Right.
It was a crisis. It wasn't a crisis that is happening to you because of what you're doing for God.
Yeah.
That now the devil's attacking your marriage. No. You did something. What did you do?
Right.
Can you admit that you did something?
Can you be accountable?
Can you be accountable? Can you have some responsibility? Can you say something?
Yeah.
No.
Mm.
Okay. So then.
So that's what I guess the pivotal moment was, that there wasn't no.
For me, that's what it
sense
was.
of-
When I saw that, I was like, there is zero accountability. There's zero
Yeah.
responsibility.
Yeah.
And it's like, I'm gonna say this because
Yeah. Do it, dude. We'll edit
people
it
are
out.
like,
if any-
don't talk about the man of God. I'm like, how is he a man? Because men take responsibility.
Yeah.
So how do I?
Yeah.
Okay, so I'm not talking about the man of God. I'm not.
Yeah.
I'm talking
Like,
about a
you
person.
take it in the chin, and then you say, "Hey, I screwed up."
Yeah.
You take ownership of whatever it is that you played a role in, because obviously it's a two-way street, right? Like,
Mhm.
if my marriage fails, God forbid, right now, as a matter of fact, for me, in my perspective as a man, right, and I'm not speaking about anybody else, but me, and I know that a lot of people would echo this thought too, but me personally, if my marriage were to fail, the blame is on me
Mm-hmm.
as the head of the house, if I am the head of the house, right,
Mhm.
which I am in my household. Similarly to if a corporation fails, who is everybody going to look at? The CEO, the person who's leading that, because they are the ones that have the final say in what gets done and what doesn't get done,
Mm-hmm.
right? So from my standpoint, in my personal opinion, if my marriage fails, it's on me. I did something. I didn't either, sure, there's a different roles to be played. The women will have obviously their say. They can do wrong as well.
Oh, no,
it could
they
be
can. They
enforced.
absolutely can.
It could be, reinforced, and you could do everything in your power as a man to make it work, and it could fail, right?
Yeah.
But still, I would hold that responsibility upon myself to say, like, no, it's because of me, because either I was a poor judge in the beginning and picking this person,
Mm-hmm.
or you picked the person and then something along the line made them different,
Yeah.
right? So from my point of view, to your point of like, at least take 50% ownership in this situation, for me is like, no matter what happened,
The
like,
man takes it on the chin.
exactly.
Exactly.
And I think that it was a pretty what you guys were expecting is funny, because you're saying like we were just expecting some sort of accountability and responsibility for whatever took place, and that's something that even me from afar was expecting. I'm like, I feel like this would be the thing that would catapult this in the right direction.
Yeah.
Or completely go to the complete opposite side, which unfortunately is what it sounds like.
It is what, yeah, it is what.
Yeah.
At least from my perspective, that's what's happening. Everybody can do whatever they want.
I mean,
but
yeah,
from my perspective, that's when it was like, oh, okay, so this is where this is the reality of the situation. There's no more pedestal. There's no more limelight. There's no more eyes that are big with admiration. It's like, okay, this is a real person who
there's no more idolatry.
There's no more idolatry. You know what I mean? This is a person. I don't think I ever had that kind of idolatry.
Right.
Like some I've seen other people have.
Right.
With this particular person, but it happened. Like I said, it happens everywhere.
Yeah.
Right. But we finally got to this place. All right, we removed it all.
Mm-hmm.
If you thought he was a god, he's not a god anymore because obviously something happened. Right.
Right.
But he is not gonna repent. He's not gonna take any accountability, and in fact, he's gonna he's not gonna change. I don't need you to tell me and address every rumor. I don't need you to address everything, every lie. I don't need you I don't need you to tell me what's going on in your life or in your bedroom. You know what I mean? I don't need any of those details. I don't, because again, you're a person. That's your family. That's it's something that's going on between you, God, and her.
Right.
Right, and you, God, and your family. But something. You know what I mean? Some kind of some kind of change. Okay, so some kind of at least a look into oneself and be like, okay, what is that I can do better? How can I be better?
Yeah.
And the opposite happened, where it was no, I am exactly who I am gonna be. This is who I am. This is what I do. I don't care what anybody else says and does around me. I'm going towards this, and I'm like, well, first of all, I don't agree, and second of all, I don't want that.
Right.
Because if that is what the following Jesus is like bulldozing towards through everything and everyone to do what again?
Yeah.
To have, instead of having 10 huge conferences a year, you want to have 11 or 12 or 30 or 50.
Right. Chasing the number.
Hasta cuando? Until chasing numbers, chasing accolades, chasing for what? You lost everything. You're losing everything. Like, what's next? You want to lose your health? You want to lose and not just your physical, you want to lose your mental health. And then I look at myself, I'm like, James, in 20 years, do you want to be that guy or not?
Right.
And it's easy answer. No. So I'm out. Bye.
Yeah.
But James,
that's when it became evident.
Yeah. Not just evident. It was just it was the time. It became the time because I'm like, it was already evident.
Did it help that a lot of people were just also, because I wouldn't say, were you one of the first ones to leave? A lot of people got that same vibe, I'm assuming, right? Because it was during this time that people were saying, yeah, I don't want this. This is not the person I want to model, not only in my personal life, but the representation of what, this whole idea was kind of formed around, right?
Yeah.
Of Christianity and living righteous and all these different things. So everybody starts to just fall off, right? And then now we're at this point where you are trying to, I guess, rekindle that 2012 realization of you saying, hey, this is now just between me and God. It's not necessarily about all this other extra stuff, which was nice.
I would say
not what I signed up for.
Yeah, I would say it in a different way.
Yeah,
because I don't think I ever lost that. No, not that. I'm not gonna say I don't think. I never lost what God told me originally. I just was in a place, physically and spiritually and emotionally, where what was so simple was the devil was trying really hard to complicate it. And leaving there and now being where I am now, right now in my life, I realized that no, it was exactly the way it was in the beginning. Simple. You don't gotta change it.
Right.
There's a garden.
Yeah.
He put you in it. Enjoy, right?
Yeah.
And if he gives you this huge life with a bunch of kids and prospers you in other different areas, it's only to do. Remember that back in that conversation. Eternal life is to know him, right?
Right.
It takes an eternity to get to know him, and I could do it there, but he wants me to do it here for two reasons. Because there's something that someone else has from him that I can get.
Yep.
And that person can bless me. And two, there's something that I have that someone else needs.
Yeah.
While we're here.
Right.
It's not going to matter when we're up there.
Yeah.
But here it matters. The things that we say, how we deal with people, how we treat people, the relationships that we build, all of that stuff, the seeds that we sow. You know what I mean? That's what's going to that's what gives life meaning.
Right.
Right. You know,
For sure.
being able to do that, and also having the humility of not needing to see it all at once,
Right.
knowing that it's God either way.
Right. 100%.
Right?
And
Just-
trusting
but
in
just-
him, his timing, right? Because his timing is often very perfect.
Yeah, it's,
You know, it's like
no,
perfect time.
It's perfect. You have no idea.
Yeah.
Like again, when you dedicated your life to God, He took it seriously.
Right.
Even in moments where you don't remember,
Right.
or you don't recall. Right.
Yeah.
That's literally what living this Christian life is.
Yeah.
Right. It's you know, we talk about Jesus. We talk about the Holy Spirit, right, as like fire, and as a, you know, like a big move and miracles and all this like signs and wonders and stuff like that. And I believe that He is all those things. But Jesus talks about Him, and He says, and I believe in the law of first mention, where He goes, everything that I taught you, I'm going to send you a counselor, a comforter, a teacher, somebody who's going to be there for you, not just to tell you things, but also to comfort you, literally.
Right.
And He says, and that person, Holy Spirit, He is going to remind you of all the things that I just taught you. What does that mean? That means that we are the kind of people who, no matter what we get to know, the wisdom that we acquire, the knowledge of God that we are able to, you know, bear fruit of in our life,
Right.
we are going to forget. So what do we always need? We need a reminder.
Reminder. Yep.
God is, and the Holy Spirit is the great reminderer.
Yes.
And these buildings that we build, that we call churches, are just places where people can go
Yep.
to learn about what they didn't know,
Mm-hmm.
right? Learn about the God that wants to be known,
Yeah.
but isn't known to them yet.
Yeah.
And so it's built for those people, and it's also built for another kind of person, the person who knows and forgets.
Yes.
And
That's
it's as
it.
simple as that.
So simple, man. So simple. I love the simplicity of God, because God can be simple and complex in some ways, but we make it complex.
We
just
make it
tend to-
so complex, right? Like I said,
Yeah.
you go back to the garden, and He was
Yeah.
in the garden, He was just a father.
Yeah.
It wasn't until we sinned that He became a judge.
Yeah.
But if there was never any sin,
Right.
then we would never have known Him as a judge, because
Right.
there's no judging,
There's no judging.
because there's no sin.
Right.
He's
Yeah.
just a dad. Isn't that, so now we complicate it.
Yeah.
So now sin complicates the world, complicates His original plan. So now God the Creator and God the Father now has to be, He has to be the guy who sends the prophets.
Mm-hmm.
He has to be the guy who judges. So He has to send judges. He has to be the guy who sends Davids to bring songs. He has to be the guy who sends kings, because we don't like, because we like complication.
Right.
Right?
Exactly.
Moses is up on the mountain telling everybody, come up here.
Yeah.
Because God is here, and
Yeah.
He wants you to come with Him.
Right.
And what do the people say? They're like, no, you go and then tell us what He said.
Mm-hmm.
We like middlemen. We like to complicate
for whatever
things.
the reason. Why is that, dude? That's wild. No, that's true. And
You want to know why? I'm going to tell you why.
Tell me why. Tell me
I'm
why.
going to tell you why. Well,
Why?
this is my
Why do we like to
hypothesis.
complicate?
We like to complicate things because it's the Rubik's Cube, right? Because in complicating the answer that is so simple, we find pleasure in our own self-importance.
So it derives from selfishness in wanting to boost our own ego.
Absolutely.
That makes sense.
That's exactly like
That makes sense.
Like look at, like, take that and filter it and everything
Yeah,
and everything
and
that you
everything.
see, and that's what it is. It's like if I can get from point A to point B, and that's exactly how it is, okay, I'll do it. But people who want to feel important or feel smarter, they put obstacles in front of themselves just to get around
overcome
it,
them.
just to have people watch them overcome it and be like, oh, look how great that guy is.
Wow.
And it's like, that's ego. That's
Yes.
not, because it's. And then they get mad at the guy who goes from point A to point B.
Yeah.
Like, simple. And they're like, no, but you see, but he
took a shortcut.
He took a shortcut, or he did that.
Yeah, there's no shortcuts in life.
Why would you do that?
Oh,
You know what I
man.
mean? Like, it's
Yeah.
like Love Cashflow. You know, I learned from Robert Kiyosaki. You learn from your mentors as well. And it's
Yeah.
like going and learning all this stuff.
Right.
And then creating your own obstacles. Like, no, but hey, just do it the way I just told you.
Right.
It's like, no, but why? But then blah, 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 blah.
Yeah.
You're telling me I have it too.
Yeah.
Analysis paralysis, right?
paralysis. Yeah.
But it really is just ego.
Yeah,
It's
no,
just ego.
that's very, and that's where it comes. Also, the whole idea of working harder and grinding and all these different things, where it's like work smarter, not harder, comes from, right.
Mm-hmm.
Working smarter usually just tends to gravitate towards the idea of doing things the way that someone else has already done it, so you don't have to overcome the same obstacles,
Mm-hmm.
right? So that's the smart, right? Like, do this way that was already figured out. You don't have to reinvent the wheel this time. You don't have to boost your ego into saying, hey, you figured out the way that's already posted everywhere.
Exactly.
So I love that. Now, I want to be able to touch a little bit now more so fast forwarding into like the cash flow side of things, where as you're at now, right? You're here. You didn't make the millions of dollars that probably should have earned, right? In your singing career and all of that, which I hope and pray that God continues to give you creative ideas and wisdom and how to continue to flourish in that vein. And if anything, I would love to talk about how we can make that happen in some ways here too. But where are you at now with like cash flow? Where are you at now with provision? And, that one thing that whether, they say that the root of all evil is money, but it just so happens that that's the thing that we need in order to survive.
Yeah,
right?
exactly. Yeah.
Like where are you at now with that?
Okay. Well, I think that's exactly why people mess up. And it's because they think that the root of all evil is money when it's not. It's the love of it, right? So again, God doesn't judge what you do and what you don't do necessarily. He judges why you do it. He's always looking at the intention of your heart.
Especially when we come from a church that we were like told like, no, you deserve to have the best suits. You deserve to have the airplane. You deserve to have all of these different things as a child of God, right? So if that's something that has been taught to us and we actually subscribe to that idea, I'm also very much for the children of God to have the best of the best, right? Like if we see people in the world that are making tons of money and they're living their lavish lives, like why us as, son and creatures of the living God wouldn't have that same. I'm sorry. I just wanted to make sure like people understood that there's no wrong in, you having the best.
Yeah.
Like
So
there's no wrong in me having a Tesla, right? There's no wrong. There's no wrong in you aspiring to have a freaking gold plaque or platinum plaque from the songs and the stuff that you did in your passion.
Absolutely,
so,
yeah. No, I agree. It's always just the posture of your heart.
Right.
God will exalt the ones that he exalts, and if you humble and you do things for Him, and He's really good at humiliating people too as well, and humbling people who need to be humbled.
Yeah.
So where I'm at right now, I would say it's just starting again. You know what I mean? And going through the valley and the hills, right? But doing it with just doing it with the Lord, not because He left me at any moment, is because I lost track of Him at some point, right?
Right.
So starting back at zero, and where I am now mentally is kind of again unlinking what I do, whatever it is that I do, and who I am, because the day of tomorrow, if I have 20 different properties, or if I'm making music that blesses people and streams like crazy everywhere, right?
Yeah.
It doesn't make me more valuable than who I am right now.
Right.
So my biggest, and so now I'm just whatever it is that I want. If I could say it again and distill it into one little thing, it would be I want to do whatever it is that will allow me to be a good dad, that would provide financially.
Yep.
And to give, if I could be there financially, and to actually be, and the flexibility to actually be there, not just to provide,
right,
but also be there. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Like you said, it makes no sense to have the money to pay for the bike if you're not there when He opens it up.
Right.
That's
100%.
where you really have the fulfillment. That's where you really feel everything come full circle.
For sure. What would you have done differently now looking back and knowing what you know from strictly the financial side, right? And the talent that you have and, the gift that God has given you, what would you have done differently, if anything?
It would have happened differently. And the only thing that would have changed really would have been I would have left earlier, because knowing how I am a problem solver. Right, and that's good for business, because all business isn't following your passion. Business is just solving problems, right? Yeah. So if you can learn how to solve someone else's problems, you're rich. You're rich. That's it. So I was telling that to my dad. I heard somebody talk about it the other day. They're like, there's nobody who the guy who owns Waste Management. He's a billionaire,
Yep.
multi-billionaire, over and over and over again. He's a billionaire.
Yeah.
He's not. God didn't put in his heart
To
a
pick
love
up
for
trash.
trash. No, he just
solved the problem.
Yeah, he solved the problem, and then he uses that money to pursue his passions, whatever it
Right.
is that he might want, golfing or
Right.
whatever. So I kind of think about it the same way. I'm like, whatever it is that I got to do,
Yeah.
I'll do it. And knowing how I am, if anything would have changed, if I would have known things that I didn't know
Yeah.
about money, didn't know about business
You would
at
just
the time,
left.
I would have left earlier, but only because I would have tried to help, and that would have been, and all the clashes that happened towards the end of me being in that season would have
been
happened a lot
expedited.
earlier. Yeah, it would have been a lot earlier. I would have been like, oh, and not only that, not just the business side, but again, it's the loving your neighbor as you love yourself kind of thing. It's like,
Right.
okay, James, you don't have to die to certain things. You are important, just as the person that you're in front of is also important, whether it be your boss or
Right.
your coworker or a congregation of people.
Yeah.
Like, yes, it's fine that they're getting blessed, but if you're dying on the inside, that's important too. You don't have to grit it and be the little kid that you were when everything was falling apart around you, and you had to internalize it to not make the matters worse.
Right. Right.
You know what I mean?
Yeah, for sure. So you wouldn't have tried to negotiate the deal. You
I
would
would
have.
have. I would have been like, okay,
knowing
well then, yeah.
knowing what you know now.
Yeah, knowing what I know, I would have been like, okay, first of all, my salary has to change. Second of all, I probably would have become maybe like a contractor and not work there full time, so that I
Right.
can also work on other things.
Yeah.
And I would have really taken advantage of the opportunity of meeting people to network.
Mm.
But that was difficult to do. Where I was,
Why?
because it was the idea of like anything that you did to kind of like not to
Have any sense
have
of
any
independence?
sense of any independence was like you have your own agenda, and also
so it was demonized for you to even remotely.
yeah, to even think about that stuff was like no, you're doing it for God. Why are you worrying about that?
Yeah.
And then the other idea was that if that other ministry or if that other minister or other band, if they don't follow and think exactly 100% like you do about every little thing, then they're not worth your time. They're not worth your whatever. So it was also, like that mentality. Well, there's a reason why that place turned into a bubble.
Right. Right.
It's a bubble.
And
You
it's
live in a bubble.
it's us against the world.
Exactly.
Even within the Christian realm, right? Like it was a very confined to just the ideologies and the thought and the way we perceived life as a whole, really. And everything else that was contradictory, even in the slightest way, was not from God. I guess.
Yeah. You do. There is no partnership. There is
Right.
like that's great that you had a conference that had 3,000 people, but no one in your city went to your conference.
Right.
That's not good.
Yeah.
Where's your network? Where's your
Yeah.
Where's your relationship? Where's your partnership? And then there's other churches in your city, or that they hand out flyers for their church or whatever. They hand out a flyer for an event, and on the back of it, they have 5 different addresses for 5 different local churches.
Yeah.
So they're not only promoting their church; they're promoting the way that
community.
they call it. Yeah, the capital C church, the
Right.
Christian community. Hey, if this
Right.
church is closer to you,
Go to
if
there.
if the name isn't the same name as it is on this building, doesn't matter. Go get God.
Right,
You know what I
right,
mean?
right,
Or go find the Lord.
Right.
That didn't happen there. It was just like
Us.
It was us versus the whole world, and I don't know how that. And if you think like us and you act like us, and if you say and all the right things, this
Yeah.
is the best place, you are the best person, blah blah blah, then you're part of the club. If
Right.
not, you're out. You know what I mean? And it was
Right.
like, okay, how am I gonna network at all?
Right.
Because
Because nobody fits the mold.
nobody fits the mold,
Which
right?
was by design, right? Because if, from the perspective of if I want to really confine people that I know are valuable to my organization as a businessman, independently of it being a nonprofit Christian church, but as a businessman, and I wanted to make sure that I held them as long as I possibly could for, cheap, I'll make them think that they, that everything else is not going to elevate them
It's
to the
never
point.
gonna be as
It's
good.
never going to be enough. It's never going to be is never going to get you to the place that you want to go. You're never going to be as close to your goals, whatever those might be, than if you stick along this. You're never going to get as far as what this vehicle can get you to, right? And as long as I can keep you in that mentality, then you are my slave.
Yeah,
in essence,
that's it,
right?
yeah.
Like I can keep you for as long as as long as I want, in essence.
Exactly.
So okay, so you would negotiate the salary, you would negotiate being a contractor instead of
so I could buy back some of my time.
Buy back some of your
I
time.
can use that time to
diversify, right?
Other pursuits.
And then you would also have networked with more people.
Absolutely, yeah. Because
despite of how it may have looked at some point. Was there a point where you felt like, screw this, I already have 1 foot out, 1 foot in, I'm going to try to connect with as many people as I possibly could?
No.
And just...
It was crazy. It wasn't a day and night decision.
Right.
But
it happened
quickly. It happened in 1 second. Like, it happened without... It happened before I had an idea of what I was going to do next.
Oh, wow.
You know what I mean? It happened.
So you didn't have an exit strategy.
I didn't have an exit strategy. It was just like, I need to leave.
Right.
Boom. It is over.
Okay.
You know what I mean? And unfortunately, there are people who they also know what's going on. They also don't agree. They're also very unhappy, and they're sacrificing their mental and their emotional health and their spiritual health. Yeah. Staying in places like that
because they don't have that many options.
With either they don't. I don't believe that because at least with God, right? With
God,
yeah.
You know I mean, in the like provision standpoint, like
exactly.
like money wise, like
exactly. But I guess they fell into that idea where it's like, I don't have a way out. I don't know how to get out of here. Or let me build it on the side in the quiet, and then when I'm ready, I'll take that step of faith. But you know what you need to take a step of faith? Faith. more than whatever it is. Like as soon as my side hustle makes more money than or the same amount of money that I'm making here, then I'll leave. It can very quickly become a trap because it's comfort.
Right. Right.
You know what I mean?
Right.
You don't realize that if you're making $4K a month and then on your side hustle you're making $4K a month.
Yeah.
You think it's gonna be easy to walk away from $8K?
Right.
No, you're gonna be making $8K and you're gonna be like, okay, now I'm leaving. That's
right.
If you haven't left yet,
right?
If
something else,
then you're not going to.
Yeah,
it's going to be very comfortable
for sure,
or very uncomfortable rather to go from now I'm making 8K now to go back down to 4K.
Yeah,
after working so hard to make. You already.
Let me just coast this, not bother anybody. Let me just collect the check, and you could fall easily into that trap, into thinking that. I'll build this side hustle over here. I'm still getting paid over here, but I'm clocked out. I'm just collecting until something happens.
Yeah,
thinking and tricking yourself into thinking that is not affecting you, but in reality, obviously it is, right? Because you are still associated with this machine, and then it's still mentally, draining. I'm sure. Yeah. I'm going to tell you a story actually that a lot of people might relate to this, right? Where, when I decided to go through this endeavor of building my real estate business through doing Airbnb and stuff like that, right? My wife and I decided in 2019, we moved to Charlotte. In 2019, we got our first property, right? We decided the month before, December on 2018, we decided we were going to get one property per month, every single month for the rest of 2019. Mainly because for me, I wanted to be a dad. I wanted to be there for my wife. I wanted to be there for my child. I wanted to be able to take paternity leave and be there with my kid. And my wife that would need me in this 3-month period. But I knew that I couldn't do that if I was stuck at a 9 to 5, right? So we decided to move. I still kept my job, right? Talking about building a side hustle that eventually replaces, right? So I was working at Allstate as an insurance agent. Back home in Miami, I built an agency in 2 years from 0 to $3 million book of business alongside the agent that, purchased it. We were actually going to buy this agency. Wow. And we were going to become insurance agent through Allstate. We were going to buy this agency that I helped build, which was going to be an amazing story, right? Like we went out to dinner with these people. They were going to mold me. Like he was literally my mentor. Great guy, Ramses. Shout out to Ramses if you're hearing this. So we were going to end up buying this, but we moved to Charlotte and, month 3 comes, we have 3 units, right? I'm still not replacing my income, but I saw the light. I saw the light in the end of the tunnel, and it's like I said, back to my motto, I'd rather live with a failure than a regret. I decided, I was like, you know what? I'm going to just give this my all. And what we're going to do, because it's a team, it's not just me. You know, I was working 9 to 5. My wife was cleaning toilets and, you know, making beds and communicating with guests as I was, you know, working, providing for us, because every single dollar that we made in this business, we were reinvesting to get into the next property, because that was the only way that we were going to be able to scale this thing into getting 12 properties in a single year, right?
Yeah.
Is by just reinvesting it. But without getting to the point, because I was making $55,000 a year. I'm managing this Allstate agency here in Charlotte. And for me to be able to replace that, I think I had to make like $5,000 a month or something like that. Not too hard, right? Now looking back. But I wasn't there yet. With 3 properties, I wasn't there yet, especially given the fact that I was reinvesting every single penny back into the business. So I decided to tell my wife, I'm like, this is what we're going to do. And talking about submission, when you're being led, you know, it's controversial to say submission when a woman submits to a man. And somebody told me this, and it was beautiful how they said it. I wish I can give credit to whoever said it. But, you know, submission is 2 words. Sub, being under, and then mission, a mission, right? So my wife was under the mission that we together built. There's no way that she would submit to my ideas or our goals if she didn't see the mission that was worthwhile for her to submit or go under, right? If I'm un rastrero, if I'm a dude that doesn't have vision and doesn't have, you know, ideas or how to push our family, our legacy forward, then of course she's not going to want to submit, right? But if you're a man of integrity and you're a man that is after God's heart and you're a man that wants the best for the family and you understand that it's a team dynamic and all these things, women by nature gravitate towards that.
Yeah.
But anyways, to not like extend the story, so 3 months come by and I say, you know what, babe, I want you to get the full-time job so that we can live off of that. And I'm going to go full on this business. I'm going to jump ship. I'm going to literally, I had
Step of faith.
Dude, step of faith. And I'm talking about, I had the 220 license, which was super hard to get, equivalent to, you know, a real estate license, but harder to get, I would assume too. I had my life and health insurance license, all these different licenses that I made the decision by faith to let them lapse and literally burn the bridge, because I felt that God was leading me in this direction, and I had the faith that it was God leading me in this direction. Now, mind you, I was in a place where, you know, this was pre-pandemic, right? And it was just my wife and I, no friends, no distractions. You know, we're going to church, but we're receiving. We're not involved in serving and all these different things. We had real like clarity for the first time in a long time, right? Instead of being told what to do, we were already having, okay, this is what God wants us to do.
Yep.
So I had the boldness and the fear of God to make sure that I was making the right decision for my family. So, you know, long story short, we made that decision, and I was now the one cleaning the toilets, making the beds, you know, until we built it enough to a point where we finally hired our first cleaning lady, you know, and then we started to build. And sure enough, you know, at the end of 2019, we had 13 listings instead of 12. But going back and edifying what you were saying, that it takes faith to actually do what you need to, what God is calling you to do.
Absolutely. Yeah.
You can't always expect. Now, I'm not condoning negligence and saying no. Especially if you have a family to provide for and all these different things. For us, it was a little different because it was literally just us, and we were going from one apartment, right? We would get one apartment, just so you know the process here. We would rent an apartment because we were doing rental arbitrage, furnish it as we were living in it. When it was close to being done, we would lock in the next property to move into that one and list that one. And that one would go live, and now we're not necessarily even paying rent because we were being very frugal. We had a mission. We had a goal.
Oh, yeah.
And that faith paid off, you know, in
Absolutely.
a great way, because then that ended up being our education business now that we have, right? Teaching people how to do it. And this is where I want to pivot it back to you. I think that you have something. No, I know that you have something in the realm of not just ministry, but also musically, that people want to grow in. And especially speaking from the area of being spiritually led when it comes to music specifically, right? Because there's people out there that do music really, really well, right? That are better than you and all of these different things. But what I think is unique, and is something that I personally accredit to this place that we came from is that, we learned things that it's hard to learn outside, where it's like the spirituality and the supernatural, the favor and grace of God, the healing power of God, the miracle signs and wonders, right?
Yeah.
Of God, not man, of God, right? So that's something that's in our identity now, which is why when we were on the way here from the airport, you were saying, like, I don't need to find a church that moves in all these different things because I know that it's already in me, and that's one of the things that I would say to you, dude, like edify to, is like, I don't know if you've ever fallen, is like, man, was this all a waste of time? If you ever, because I've never thought of that because I wasn't as involved, but if you ever thought of that, it's like, dude, the things that you have, the treasure that you have in you that have been, number one, dormant, and not only dormant, but also suppressed because they didn't want you to know what you have. You get what I'm saying? Because if you were to know the gems and the what lives inside of you, and you were to actually expose it to the world, that's your sign to be like attracted to somebody else or something else that can take you to the levels that they didn't want you to take. Right?
Exactly.
So with that, I say, man, like, there's people's musicians in the, leaders in the churches that, can write music and all these things, but they're missing that key element of, and I'm not saying that other people don't have it, but that's something that you have.
Amen. Thanks,
and I think that you can bring to the forefront and make you different than pretty much anyone else in this sphere of, worship and, Christian music and all of that genre, right?
Absolutely.
And I think that that's something that God is going to use to glorify himself through you, despite what you've gone through. In this season, I think that God is going to open your eyes more than he even has in like 2023, like you were saying. He's gonna use your gifts for his glory.
Amen.
And not that he didn't before, but now you're gonna see the fullness of it. And because you were obviously you were like a horse with the little sliders, right? Like we're blinders, going with the blinders, because you were going in this direction and they didn't want you to look anywhere else. But I think that God is going to open it up to where you're going to be able to have a 180-degree view of his majesty and all of that through your gift. And not only are you going to be able to help people navigate this process of being led by the Spirit and really cultivating a relationship with God through music and bridging the gap between God and man to have this special moment through music. But he's going to monetize it too. Like I think that there's blessings that are going to come from it as well. And I don't know if you've ever thought of this, but I really think that you should work on, and I don't know if I'm prophesying or if this is just something my business mindset is trying to, like, you should do a coaching program, like a school similar to what I have for Airbnb, but for music, but spiritually led music. Tapping into the Holy Spirit, prophecy through music, all of those elements. Not that it doesn't exist. I'm sure it exists already, but not from James. And there's one thing that my mentor says is you can't compete with unique, right? There might be someone else that's doing it, but it is not you. Right? There could be 1 million people that are doing real estate and are doing Airbnb and all of that, but they're not me, right? They're not this shiny bald head, right? They're not, you know what I'm saying? So this Dominican dude that just happened to come out of nowhere. And I think that what you have and what you have already built in your personal brand, because we all have personal brands, you already have a personal brand that precedes you, a reputation that precedes you, and you operating in excellence, regardless for what the motives were. You operating in excellence is something that you can lean on, right? And it's a door I feel that is wide open for you to kind of muscle through. And if there's anything in my power that I could do to help you get and walk through that door, my brother, you can count on it.
Thank you.
Because I do genuinely feel like you are, like, the world hasn't seen the best version of James just yet.
Amen.
And I know it's gonna come fast too. It's not like, no, like what should have happened 10 years ago is going to happen in 2 years.
Yeah, God can redeem all that time, man.
100%. 100%. So I'm excited for you, man. And if there's, as a matter of fact, because, from a business standpoint and maybe people that were in the similar shoes, even in the same room as you, from band members or whatever, is there anything that I can help in, give you advice in, something that you feel that maybe I carry from outside that you would want to implement in your life from that perspective of, you know, finances, cash flow. Again, I don't have all the answers and I don't, you know, pretend to have them, but, you know, God has used me in a way where even when I was just doing this Airbnb business for 3 months and I figured out, hey, this is a freaking, I was trying to rally up people. I was already building this course.
Yeah.
Because my heart has always been to be able to help people get to, and I can only help people to get to the place where I'm at.
Yeah.
So one of my fires in life is to me to continuously elevate, because then that'll mean that I can help people elevate to where I'm at. I can never, well, not never, right? Like I can plant a seed in someone so that they grow beyond me, which is my biggest compliment. I tell my students all the time in the coaching program, like the biggest compliment you can give me is that if you do better than me.
That's
right?
good stuff, yeah.
But in my heart is like, I can't really help you get further unless you take it upon yourself. But I can't really help you get further unless I get there too. So, and that's why in a lot of my videos, I say, I'll see you at the top. And a lot of people don't know why I say that, but it's 2 reasons, and I'll explain it quickly because I really want to hear your, like what you have. But when I say I'll see you at the top, it's to 2 people. Number 1, people that are already above me, beyond where I'm at, you know, and I'll see you there because I'm coming, right? And also the people that I'm trying to help and mentor, like I'll see you at the top. We're gonna go together.
We're gonna go together. I
right?
love that, yeah.
Because I've always said, like, when people, I would hear people say it's lonely at the top and all these different things. I'm like, dude, it's only lonely if you don't bring nobody with you.
Absolutely.
Like if you wanted to be lonely, it could be.
Yeah.
But if you help others achieve the things that you've achieved, then, you know, that's the thing. So that's my heart, really. Yeah, you won't be alone.
Yeah, you can.
And that's where the real, like the coaching program and all these different things of me helping others came from. It was more so my wanting of, because I already had a successful business without the coaching program. Now, the coaching program is successful too, right? Because there's benefits to helping others, right? And I feel that that's what you're going to start to tap into now, the benefit of helping others in this area. Yeah.
So yeah, that was going to be my question. Like if I were to, because I do have a couple ideas in my head, you know, got some downloads too. And,
there you go.
You know, you're telling me about you get the downloads, ideas from God in the shower, right? So
Yeah.
I've had a couple.
Yeah.
For like a book or so that I would like to write about things that I believe will help somebody who is a worship leader, or because there are different things that you need to parse with that. You're like, there is one thing is about worship, and then another thing is about worship leading, and then another thing is about music.
Right.
Like, so all those things are happening all at once, and people don't really know how to define what is what. You know what I mean? And so worship is definitely something that you do, you know, in your private place with, you know, in a private place with God, right? In your personal time with God. But worship leading, you do it in a congregation, right? Yeah. And those are 2 different things that are happening. It is 2 different things that are happening.
Yeah.
Because would you like to go to church? You know, and I've seen this happen before. You know, you go to church and you're there to connect with people. You're there to worship God in a community, and the guy who's up there singing turns his back to you.
Right.
Would you like that? Doesn't seem like it makes sense, and it doesn't. You know?
Right.
And then also understanding that worship is one thing, and worship can be a bunch of different things. You could do it with music, but the Bible says that you do everything with the Lord. Yeah. Right. Yeah. And you do everything as unto the Lord, so everything can be worship.
Right.
So the activity of worship is at all times, but the expression of worship can be confined to music.
Right.
And then music is a business. So then how do you make sure that your heart isn't doing business when you're supposed to be ministering people or having intimacy with God? Like
right.
That's where it starts. That's where I want to talk. I want to talk about all of that because I don't think people talk about that.
Right.
First of all, they don't even make that distinction that I just said. Right.
That's facts.
So unfortunately, you have people like that are worship leaders, but they don't. As an old saying from my dad, he goes, he's from Mississippi. My stepdad, he goes, I don't like to call him that though. He's my dad, right? He says, talking loud, saying nothing, right? It's like you're saying things that it sounds spiritual, it sounds great. Like all you need to do is just have intimacy with God. And what is intimacy? In time, you'll see. It's like, it sounds cool, but you didn't say anything to me. What does that look like? What does that mean? Yeah. So I want to write a book that's like a lot more practical, right? And I think that that might be beneficial for people who are struggling with that. Sure. What am I doing? Is this really my calling, or is this just something that I love to do? Yeah. You know. Yeah. and also coaching too, because I don't want to. I would hate to have gone through everything that I went through, and not have anybody, and then have other people go through it when they don't have to.
Right.
I can kind of help them,
For
get
sure.
hey, look,
Navigating all these different things. I think that the book is a great idea. In the business realm, books are lead magnets, right? Just so perspective.
Okay.
I know it sounds sexy to be an author and all these different things. And then there's people that make a really good, living from selling books and all of that. Like we've seen it. However, that's just an introduction to the other things for the most part,
okay.
Right? So, the reason why these, church leaders write books is because it's also a lead magnet. That's how someone that doesn't go to the church learns about this person and then congregates, and then now they're sending their offerings, maybe their tithes, or come to this church. So it's a lead magnet, right?
Yeah.
So when you write a book, it's a good thing. It's good. You can make some money from it, but it shouldn't be the end all be all. There should be something that then, if someone wants more, can go into, which is where coaching comes, or courses come, some sort of digital product which has the highest margins. Yeah. That's where, if you start to, in essence, package your knowledge, information, your experiences, and all of that to a general public, that they can now learn from and avoid all of these other hurdles and mistakes. Because something that I tell my students also is like, hey guys, you can learn everything that I'm going to teach you. You can go and find it in the internet. It's going to take you time to dissect it, make sure that it's actually in the path, all these different things. So you're really just buying time more than anything else. The commodity that we can't get more of.
That's a great way to think about it.
Right. So in some points, it's like, as long as you can think of, education, knowledge, books, you're really just buying time. Because everything that you can learn out there, especially in this day and age where you can find everything on Google, YouTube, or whatever.
Yeah.
But is it packaged in a way for it's easy for you to consume? Is it packaged in a way that is specific to you? Because there's going to be a lot of sifting through stuff before you get to the things that are actually going to make a difference.
Yeah.
Right? So that's where you, as a thought leader, as someone who is, an expert in your field, can provide that saving of time for people.
Yeah.
So
Absolutely.
a book is good. Course should come like yesterday. At least a course that it's evergreen. It's the videos.
Yeah.
And then a coaching program where it's more access to you directly.
One-on-one, stuff like that.
That is high ticket, right?
Yeah.
So all this stuff of like serving and all that, good, do it, right? Like free, more lead magnet, right? Think business now, right? Because for this whole time, 10 years, decades, you've been serving your butt off. But the reality is that you should be compensated for your time, right? And if anybody's upset at that, then you don't want them to buy from you anyways, right? So yes, get the book, get a course, record some videos, structure a curriculum. You record a video. This is what I did. I'm literally telling you from experience. And then eventually you're going to see people want more. They don't want to just watch James in a video that they press play and pause and rewatch. Now they want detailed information and access to you. The closer they get to you, the more expensive it's going to get, right? A book is going to cost $15, $20. A course is going to cost maybe $600 to $1,000, right? Coaching directly with you is going to cost $3,000 to $12,000, right? Because you're limited time now.
Yeah, cool.
So that's what I think you should be kind of navigating through. Okay. And the way that you should do it is see who wants it first.
Yeah.
Like, don't go out and build this course and do this coaching program and all these things, because though I know for a fact that people are going to say, yes, let's run, let's do it. I've been waiting for you to do something to get closer to you and what the access that you have and the information and all these experiences that you have. You already built authority here. So people I know for a fact, but you don't know till you really know.
Yeah.
So you can build this, and people that are watching this and they end up buying your thing and be like, he hasn't even built it yet. But you're testing the water and seeing if there's really a demand there, right?
It's true.
And it's going to take more work. Like the book should come after the course, because the course is faster. Yeah. And the book is going to take time for you to write. And then through you creating the course, you could write the book, right? Yeah. You could do it with stories now and all these different things. As a matter of fact, how I'm going to do it is I literally wrote verbatim because I was so bad in camera. So I would literally write the scripts that I would read off a teleprompter for my course. And I wrote it. And I remember, you know, it was super hard for me to get it done, that I told my wife, babe, I'm gonna rent a hotel across the street so I can focus and do this, because I'm like very like squirrel, like I get distracted. I need to focus and do this thing. And I literally typed the whole course, 60 videos. Basically, I literally have a book now.
Wow. Yeah.
I'm not saying that you need to do that, but as you have the topics and the bullet points and all these different things, and you're recording in front of the camera and all these things, now you throw that video into Descript or something, it's gonna spit out all this text, right?
Yeah.
And then now you can freaking send it to an editor, and they'll write the book for you. Okay, now let's add some stories that are personalized to me into this book, and now you literally have a book.
Wow.
There's people that write books every quarter that don't write books, right?
Yeah,
like
yeah.
we know people like that. You know what I'm saying? And that's how they do it, right?
Yeah,
You're actually you know, being a good steward of your time. But yeah, that's how I would see you kind of doing that. And then the book would be good for you to sell, you know, at a booth after you finish worshiping, that somebody, you know, paid you to come out and worship on your own and all that. Is that something that you see happening? Like you actually, is that something that you're still passionate about? Like,
I feel like this break, it helped me get back to a place where I can feel like I am enjoying it again, purely, you know, in a way that isn't, because it got to be daunting, you know.
Yeah.
It got to be a little bit of like, I don't want to do this anymore, or is this all that there is, right? So
so could would it be safe to say that in the future, at some point, we would see James on stage singing again?
I would love to. Heck
Yeah.
yeah.
Like if
Invite
they
me to the
invited you-
WealthCon. I saw you guys did a worship
Let's
session
go.
at WealthCon.
Yeah, we have a
Yeah,
Wealthy
man.
Summit coming up too.
Bro,
Is what
I
you're
will,
saying.
bro, if you have me, I'd love to do that. That'd be great.
That'd be awesome. Okay,
yeah,
so-
so I see myself doing that.
Yeah.
I think what I want to be able to do, which is, I'll ask you this question, I guess. I want to be able to do it without needing to do it for money, though.
Okay.
Like I would love, I love the idea of making money and with what I do, because you know it is valuable, or people will enjoy it, or they'll want to bless me. I want to think about it that way.
Yeah.
But I don't want to do it because I need to, which is why I love the idea of cash flow. I love the idea of having multiple streams of income, because you know I could have my earned income with the job that I have now, which has nothing to do with any of this stuff, right?
Right.
You know, in the last couple of months, I've gotten experience in sales with auto insurance and with life and health insurance too, which is great. People, oh, James is doing that? Yeah, I'm doing that. But you were created for worship. No, I wasn't. Like, I was created to be a dad. So if you don't like how I'm being a dad, then go, you know, anyway, I'm not gonna go into that. But I definitely see myself doing that again.
Yeah.
Absolutely.
You know what's
my
gonna-
question for you,
Yeah.
sorry.
No,
you
go
have
ahead.
something?
No, go for it.
I was
go
gonna
for
say
it.
the question
I'll
I had for you, what you said, you had mentioned it early on. How was that transition between doing what you're doing and then teaching what you're doing? Because you said a little bit about what a lot of people go through, which is what I kind of go through in my analysis paralysis stages, where it's this imposter syndrome.
Yeah.
How do you
overcome
overcome
that?
that mentally? Yeah.
You know,
For someone who's a complete newbie.
yeah,
You know?
imposter syndrome usually derives from you not feeling enough, right? So like for me, the person that I'm trying to help is not the person that's there with me. It's not the person that's above me in that thing, right? Like I'm trying to help. Like 3 months me into the Airbnb business, I felt that I could help people that were me 3 months ago, right?
Yeah.
So if you are at rung 10 of the ladder, you can help people that are in rung 9 and below, right? Now you, in your specific scenario, you have freaking your whole life experience, a decade worth of experiences in a high level environment, you know, pressures, different things where you might not know this because again, you kind of have to undo this in your mind that people even want to have access to what you have. But bro, you can help any worship leader, any of them, people that are in the biggest stages right now and receiving Grammys. There's something in you that you can even teach them. So the net that you're throwing is not me at 3 months into this business. The net that you're throwing out, it's literally a lifelong experience that you can share with the world that I know for a fact people want. And I know that the moment that you make it evident that this is now something that you're entertaining, for instance, what I was going to say was make it more known that you're going through this thing. Like, don't be afraid to post it on social media. That is the biggest evidence. When people see, oh, James is now making content, like helping people, again, going back to what your desire is, not necessarily wanting to do it for the money, but really because you want to do it. Yeah. Put it out for free on Instagram or on YouTube, but actually give game, not just the piano, which I love, and you singing and all of that, the entertainment, or the like actually what you would teach, give it out for free.
Yeah.
And what's going to happen? People are like, I want more. If this is the free stuff, I wonder what is if there is a course. And I guarantee you right now in this moment, even though you've been ghost for a year plus or however long it's been, there's people still yearning to get the information that James has. Yeah. You get what I'm saying?
Yeah.
So that imposter syndrome can easily be, destroyed by you understanding that what you have in you, not only you've earned through this time, but God gave it to you. And that also the people that you're going to impact are people that are going to aspire to be in any way, shape, or form where you were, but also being able to also have the hack of overcoming the difficulties and all of that. Like, bro, you're going to save lives.
Yeah.
That's the reality, bro. Like, it's not just about singing and hitting the right notes and pressing the right key and all these things. Like, you get the heartache and pain that you went through and the suicidal thoughts and all of these different things, you're going to help people overcome that and not have to go through that. Like, dude, like, sure, you're going to monetize it and you should and all these different things. But the imposter syndrome, I don't know. I don't think you would have imposter syndrome. And I hope like these are walls that are breaking down literally as we speak because you're literally going to save lives, bro. Because there's people that are not going to be able to withstand a decade worth of what you went through. And they will give in and say, you know what, it isn't worth it. And I'm sure there's people that...
Or they'll become the thing that they hate, which is the other thing.
Boom. Or they'll become the thing that they hate.
They lose the main idea and they end up just becoming a copycat of what they weren't supposed to be in the first place.
The reality is, bro, that you went through what you went through for such a time as this so that other people don't go through that. For me, it was my chip on my shoulder was like I was always an entrepreneur stuck behind a desk, a 9-to-5, and I did well, right? Like when I was in my 9-to-5, I don't like people have to go through their processes, but I was an entrepreneur at heart, and I knew that I didn't belong in a 9-to-5. So I was trying to help the people that were like me, that were stuck in a 9-to-5, that have the golden handcuffs, right? That they're there, have to collect a check. But there's this one thing that I kind of figured out that if I could help you, right? Like these people that are stuck at the church right now, that they feel like there's nothing that they could do, right? Because, you know, they don't have any other gifts or talents or whatever. Like I have to collect this check and they're fearful of leaving and whatever it is, but it's usually tied to the aspect of making money. Like, bro, join my course.
Yeah.
Like there's ways you just you choosing not to go that way. But that was for me my deciding like factor of me overcoming the imposter syndrome, because at the end of the day I was just trying to help people that were where I was. Yeah. That's it.
Absolutely. That's awesome.
Yeah. So
you're right. So just reminding myself that, and for anybody else who's going through that, just reminding yourself that what you have is valuable. Yeah. Maybe not to everyone, but definitely to God and to someone else.
Yeah, it might be literally your office. It might be your family, right?
Yeah.
Like you can. Everybody has something to offer to someone, you know, whether it's something that's going to be revolutionary and change their lives forever, which I genuinely. I'm not doing this to hype you up or anything like that. Like I genuinely believe that what you have will change people's lives for the better, not just with their relationship with God, but also the everything else, right? Yeah. So, yeah, man, it's just a matter of doing it.
People really learned a lot.
Yeah, for sure.
From my perspective, I really gave a lot of my heart.
Dude, I think that people are going to be so blessed by this. I don't even know how long we went, but I think people are going to be so blessed by this, and I only pray that this is just a stepping stone into a greater dimension of your life and your existence and you know, your future with God, in business, in ministry, and all of that stuff in the way that God intended it for it to be originally, but now with the experiences that you have, that you can now impact way more people, man.
Amen.
So with that being said, where can people find you now?
Right now,
Like,
presently,
right now. Yeah.
I only have an Instagram.
By the
I
ti-
need, by the
You don't
ti-
have an Instagram?
I don't. I said I only have an Instagram.
I only have an- okay.
Yeah, right now.
So what's your Instagram so
my
people
Instagram
can find you?
is James. It's been the same one since I opened it.
There you go.
James So Fly.
James So
yeah,
Fly.
James O Fly. It's like
there you
people
go.
are like, we're like, oh, that you're trying to, I don't know, like
Yeah, trying to
cocky or
be-
whatever. It's really nice because my last name is Orjuela.
Yeah. Okay.
So a lot of people would say Ovuela. They don't know
Oh.
how to say, and Vuela is fly. In
Right.
Spanish.
Oh, there
So
we go. I didn't even know that.
It worked as like a double entendre there.
There you go.
James
There you
O
go.
Fly.
What would you say? Last thing. What would you say is your favorite song that you've ever written?
Today, my favorite lyric that I've always written with people. I don't think I wrote a couple songs just complete by myself, but
Right.
my favorite lyric that I've ever written was it's a song called "Breathing In."
Okay.
A part of it came out on the altar spontaneously with a friend of mine, Luisa, and with the band.
Yeah.
Then she brought it. We sat down and we were just playing it. And she's like, I have this idea for a verse. Like, what would you put? And my the favorite line that God gave me in the moment to summarize everything that we said today, I think I said it in our conversation, was talking to God. You planted a garden with the intention of spending eternity with me.
Dang, that's fire, dude.
That is,
So good.
if you can understand that, that was God's heart in the beginning, and that He hasn't changed it yet.
Yeah.
That's still His heart today.
Yeah.
So much so that in the future, if you read the end of the book, right, we're gonna end up the same way.
Mm-hmm.
It's gonna be God in us again, and there will be no sin. He's gonna remove all that. He even says He's gonna make a new heaven, a new earth. He's gonna plant the garden again, and we will be with Him
Amen,
forevermore.
man. Man, I love you, brother. I hope this is not the last time that
I don't think so. I love this. This is
awesome, right?
Yeah, yeah.
So we'll definitely do it again. If you guys haven't already subscribed, if you made it this far, you should have. I'm hoping that you're a subscriber. Just make sure to follow us. Follow my boy James and his journey of writing his book, creating his course, his coaching program.
That's right.
Being on stage, selling out merch. Merch is another thing, by the way.
Yeah.
And then, as always, I'll see you at the top. Let's go.